minutes, number 5A, cannot be discussed this evening. And I wish Garcia was here because he told me he would be.
He's going to be, he's
Okay.
tied up.
Thank you so much, because now I'm saying this and it doesn't make any sense. And number 7, old business cannot be discussed because that was discussed in the May meeting that should have never been held because of the fact that it was not given to the public. I know you guys are used to not having anyone here. I get that 100%. But some of us are starting to care more about the Marque and what's going on. But if we don't know about the meetings, we can't help y'all. We can't make a difference. There he is. So.
No, I feel like we're gonna need you, so.
I'm talking about the May meeting that was never given to the public or posted outside. I sent you an email on that and you agree. And I have proof that's still, as of today, not on the agenda.
Miss Ivy,
Livy,
I'm sorry.
it's okay.
So I know there's like a 3-minute time span, so.
Yes, ma'am.
We want to address all your concerns.
That's it. That's my only concern.
But what was it about the other 7 what?
7A, to not discuss the yard of the month.
5, approval of the minutes, and you should not be able to discuss anything that was held at the May meeting, anything. It was not given to the public. It was not, I know you're not.
If it was, I mean, you're correct, if it was not posted.
It was not posted anywhere.
It wasn't posted on the
I
30th.
have this. You can pull it up right now.
Was it posted in the class out
Nope.
here?
Sure was not.
Okay, so.
I approved of that.
No.
I'm sorry.
Please
No,
join us,
Because I know you and I
Caesar.
discussed this.
Yeah, we discussed it and I'm gonna sit over here. The algorithm with the mouse pad here. Okay, so, sorry, we're just walking in. We interrupt y'all's meeting. I was trying to make a very quiet entrance. So, and Kira just walked out, otherwise I would just have her turn around and come back. But if indeed the meeting was not properly posted, and by properly posted, it needs to be posted outside. It doesn't technically have to be on the city's website, but nonetheless, if it was not properly posted outside, then technically whatever action may have taken place at that meeting would have to be brought back.
And you and I had that discussion.
Yeah,
And we
so-
agreed it was not posted outside.
Right, so if it was not indeed, if that wasn't followed, then that's what, and I don't have a copy of your May agenda, so I don't know what was on your agenda.
So
Did
my
you meet it?
request then would be to table anything on 5 and 7 until the following meeting.
I don't have the
To
agenda, so I don't know what
prove
5 and 7 are. Sorry, I was again trying
It's
to.
all
make-
the May
Here, will you hand
information.
that for me? I got a
Sorry.
copy of it. I have it on my computer.
I was hoping to sit in the back quietly and not be up here.
And this was the same thing that happened in June, why it had to be canceled.
So 5 and 7.
5 and 7, not 6, because the reports, I think, are legal, right? Because those happen normally. You can't approve minutes if it was never
Well,
a set meeting.
A lot of this stuff is also run from before the May meeting. as
let
well.
me just chew on this for a second.
Okay, I'll accept that if you can tell me which items were before the meeting.
So, yeah, I'm just reading this real quick. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 6 addresses, essentially, right,
We're
Are-
discussing May,
are 6 awards that were made for Yard of the Month
in May.
in May.
on a
They were
meeting,
awarded in May.
Correct.
and
during a
pardon me
May
for
meeting
not
that
having
was
my
not
notes.
Published to the.
No, those were not awarded.
Oh, they have not been awarded.
No.
So. So
Actually,
why is
that's,
it under old business and I'm.
Well, hold on. That's what I'm trying to make sure I understand it before I give you my understanding. So the 6 yards that are recorded as old business,
Yes.
were they passed at the May meeting?
they were essentially kind of tabled and pushed over because Kathy was not present at the last meeting.
Okay,
And
so
she is
no,
the chair for that.
so no,
No action
No
was
action was
taken on
taken.
it.
Okay, I'm acceptable
Okay.
of that.
that's,
Yeah,
that answers that question. So my question is are those items to be heard tonight?
Yes, if they were not agreed upon in May.
Okay, right? Is that
I'm-
accurate?
I'm good with
Again, I'm not, I apologize. I was gonna just be in the back listening and not really participating as much, but
They were all tabled.
they were all
They
tabled.
were all tabled.
So no action took place at the main meeting, basically
They were
is
all
what I'm getting
tabled.
at.
And then, there's no pictures available. There were several reasons why they were tabled
yeah,
Perfect.
for the next meeting. And then so all the commissioners could be here and vote on.
yes.
And then a meeting did not take place in June,
Correct.
and then we're here
Yes,
now.
sir.
All right, so now
Because it
we
was not given to the public in time, yes.
You know, it doesn't have
We
to be
didn't
given,
have-
it just has to be
that-
posted.
Yeah, it wasn't posted.
I'm not
Posted in
That's
there.
when it got pulled in June,
saying otherwise.
right?
I'm going back to the posting and not posting. I'm just asking, in the main meeting that's in question, was any action taken?
Not on the awards, yards of the month.
No,
Or was there any other action taken on that meeting?
I would say yes. I was at dinner with you the night of the meeting.
That
So,
was the awards. thing
yes,
that
the
we went
awards
to.
thing.
Okay,
So when I called Elizabeth, because I was going out of town, and we talked about it, and I said, are the ones that we'd already had, which was going to be the Bowie Street address, and then, because these are kind of out of order of the way we had received them. And I said, okay, well, I'll go ahead and get the one out for June.
sorry, so sorry.
Yeah, for the first, because if it's already been done, which Elizabeth thought it was at the time. So I went ahead, I put the sign out, I took pictures, I turned all that in for the page. It was never published. I guess about a week later, Elizabeth called, I was still out of town, to tell me that the meeting had been like moved.
Mhm.
And then she says, oh, I told you that in error. She says, they didn't approve all of those. She said, because they wanted to wait till they had pictures of the other one. So there was that little conflict. So I did put that sign out. So I don't know where that goes in here.
Okay,
I thought our agreement was it wouldn't put the sign out till it was approved.
Well, I was under the impression when I called
Well,
Elizabeth that it was.
we're gonna discuss that a little bit further, and we're gonna nip that in the bud.
Can I-
So,
Yeah,
Can I sit down since I already did my thing and y'all
Yeah,
know
no,
where I
but-
stand on this?
no, but
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Oh, no.
Yards weren't approved.
I
Yeah,
just want to
it's-
make sure that
to answer your question, though,
we know.
I completely concur, and I think that's been duly noted by everybody here. My question that I want to jump, so we can administratively handle what you're
Right.
requesting,
Because you and I spoke of this
Right.
in May,
right?
in
So,
person.
so number one thing that I could ask is, again, I'm gonna ask it one more time. Was any action taken at the May meeting?
Any action at all on any
At
item?
Any item?
Yes, there
Okay.
was action taken.
Okay, so technically, and I wish if anybody is more versed on this than I am, technically, any items that would have been heard and action taken at the May meeting, if it wasn't a properly voted meeting, has to become null and void, and you would have to represent those items.
Exactly. It has to be placed on the next agenda for the.
So
That's
then,
all I'm
so
asking.
just administrative order, and I'll just give an example of administrativeness and things that haven't gone on for a while. One took place in this very room the other day, yesterday, for example. Our city charter says that thank you. Our city charter states that every single city official, right, department head and above, is supposed to be sworn in. Well, that had never happened before. So as we're doing charter review and we noticed that, and it was brought to our attention saying, hey, no one's ever done that before. Yesterday, we had all the department heads came in here except for two that weren't available, their training or whatever, got sworn in. So no different in this case. It's a correctable action after the fact if you do it. In this case, whatever action may have been taken at that May meeting, bring it forward at your next scheduled meeting and then proceed from there.
which
I think
works-
that addresses that.
It works just fine because there was only one item that actually had action taken on it, and it was about the budget for t-shirts and swag items. So not a big deal, but yeah,
Excellent.
the yard of the month wasn't, and it wasn't really an error on Kathy that you put it out in the yard, because that's just what we normally do.
Yeah.
And so that's not a thing. Kathy usually puts it out in the yard and then it
I
comes.
thought we agreed. that
No,
you
we
would do
did.
that.
We did
But-
talk about it. We did.
But we're gonna do that tonight when we discuss bylaws.
Yes.
So we're gonna go,
Yeah.
this is not gonna be an issue ever again.
No.
After
So we
tonight,
were,
once we get
we
this
were
done.
talking about reworking it, just like Caesar said, in the bylaws and stuff, and that's what'll be done, but it wasn't an error of judgment or anything that you put the sign out. It's just what we do
Yeah.
normally.
You know, because I thought I was covering my bases by asking
Yeah.
since I was not at the meeting.
So,
know,
and that's
and
fine.
that's
but-
a
and
normal
That's the beauty,
procedure,
this is
yeah.
the beauty of democracy. There's always a way to clarify and correct it, right? So as my recommendation, Chair, I would recommend that you pull item 5, right, which is the approval of minutes,
Yeah.
and technically a meeting did not take place. And assure that item 7, which is the other question, the other item in question, that is added at your next appointed meeting. I think that clears that up from that perspective.
Because it's not against, it's just everyone learning and getting into the right spectrum of what needs to be done. So stuff is not brought against our city in a bad way. So I hope y'all understand that that's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to slash anyone or bash anyone or be any part of that. What I'm trying to do is help get things done correctly. Because they haven't been for years. And if everyone wants to give
I would disagree with that because we have, this is the first time I've ever heard that we haven't posted our meeting. Is that,
Mhm,
does everybody agree with that?
yeah.
So
No,
don't
sir,
say-
I can go back years.
You
I
don't have,
can prove it.
you
And
can, you,
and he knows that.
I guarantee you some of that, those things have been posted before.
I just a comment on that, and I'm gonna just be open and just really open in this. And this is probably any city that you go to. When we have things looked up in a matter, in a forensic matter, when we look deeper into them, you're probably likely to find mistakes in a lot of things. And that's any city across America you probably go to. Having said that, if something was brought up to our attention, we just go back and we correct it. And in this case, it is what it is. If something was missed, something I could tell you in my short time here, I found a few things that maybe weren't being done the way that they could have been, according to we have 2 choices, right? We either follow our charter as it is, or suggest changes to the charter and then follow those rules. But nonetheless, we have to follow. So if something's been brought up to our attention that we need to look at and address, that's what our task is.
That's the only thing you can do. Move forward and correct.
That's right. So
Um,
thank you for bringing things to attention. I think the board has heard.
Can I respond to Mr. Pettyjohn?
I don't think we need to get too off.
Yeah, because I
center
think
here.
we just
We
need
don't
to keep
need
it
to
going.
We just don't want to lead into any sort of argumentative state. And we want to get into our actual meeting and get things that need to be taken care of, taken care of.
So
What was that? I was gonna ask a question, but thank
No,
you.
Miss Live, I didn't
It's
mean
okay.
that you were arguing. I just didn't want it to
I'm the
lead
only one in the room.
into.
So
You were,
who you posting
you
that?
were speaking with Mr. Pettyjohn, and we didn't
I
need it
asked if I could ask you.
to turn into a back and forth.
Can we need to,
Yes. So we are striking 5. We will not be able to approve the meeting minutes of May 10th, 2022. Kathy, let me ask you a question real quick. What yard did you put the sign out
It
for
was
that
the
month?
1408 Bowie because that
Yeah,
was the
Bowie.
first one that we had on our list. So
Okay.
Like I said, this is a little bit out of order.
Yeah,
And so when I asked, I was like, okay, so we've got our yards picked for the next couple of months. And at that time she thought that she has, I called you like the day after. So she had not had time to re-listen to tape minutes or anything.
yeah.
So that was her understanding. And so that's what I went with.
And you did the post and stuff already
Yeah,
as well?
and yeah,
Okay.
I did. It's a beautiful post and I sent that to our Facebook page for KLMV, but it's never been approved.
question first for point of order, and I just noticed something. Going back on something I had said, I want to make sure I said it correctly because I noticed that technically it's on the agenda now. So the items that are under an old business now, item A is essentially what was supposed to be heard on May that you tabled to June that didn't happen tonight. You're listening to tonight.
Yeah.
So technically you can take action on them tonight. We said that they had to be added to the next agenda. Technically, they are on the next agenda, which
They
is
were
tonight.
carried.
So my error in that recommendation. Sorry, I
No, I
just point of order. I want to make sure that I'm speaking
So
correctly.
that would have been June.
Yeah,
Correct. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. let's move on to item 6A then, which is our financial report. Do you have that in front of you, the financial one?
See in the agenda for the packet. Does anybody have the financial?
I had it pulled up. It was in a link. It was in a, a link. But a lot of people were having trouble
couldn't get the
pulling it.
link.
Yeah, pulling it up. No. I can't. Carrie, can you read that or do you want me to read it?
Okay. Our beginning cash investment balance was $34,425.50. We had donations of $1,010. We had additional donations of $1,695. Total revenues of $1,026.95. We had a total of $628.07 of expenses, leaving us a balance of $34,824.38.
So that's just one house for Paint the Town, yeah? Yeah, 27.
I have a question.
Yes, sir?
Only because somebody asked me and I wasn't versed enough. I probably in a meeting. Sorry to interrupt. The paint the town program. In that case, you purchased the paint for it?
Yeah, yes, it's paint and
The Paint the Town program, they apply for the program, they submit pictures. We contact Lowe's and they go out and measure the house and tell us how much paint will take to do what they're asking, whether it's trim, whether it's brick, whether it's wood or anything. And we pay for the paint and then they get a discount because of the program for any supplies, paintbrushes, that kind of stuff. We only provide the paint, no labor, no nothing else. But the cost this year for the paint was like triple as before, because for that amount, before we probably could have done 3 houses. But with inflation and the price of paint and everything, that's why it's so expensive this year. That's why they had to limit the number of applications they could take.
yeah, well, I know. The budget to me too.
May I ask a question in that sense?
Mhm.
And this is just as a thought to help more people possibly. I had the pleasure of riding through Marque quite a bit the last few days and more today with the Paint the Town program. And I don't know if this exists, so I'm just speaking, out loud. I know that where I come from, there's a county program where the county offers recycled paint for each city to purchase in bulk at a very significant discount. And essentially they give you a color spectrum, 7, 8 colors. And usually residents are allowed, if they present a water bill, something that shows that they reside there, they're allowed to come and request a certain amount of gallons of paint depending on the home. And usually they get anywhere between 5 to maximum 20 gallons. Just by doing that, they're eligible for the program every X amount of years. If that were to exist as a possible program, I don't know, when they go to Lowe's, do you get to pick what colors they can do? They can technically have a fluorescent pink home. Not that there's anything wrong with fluorescent pink, but I'm saying.
I don't think we can restrict it necessarily, right? But we do give them there is a color palette of sorts
The
that they
reason why I
choose
say
from,
that-
so it looks cohesive with the rest of the.
Usually bigger cities or bigger areas have programs like that
Mhm.
where you can purchase recycled paint from some of these manufacturers, or maybe go into a local paint manufacturer, not knowing where they are. So please understand what I'm saying. The reason why I'm saying is because you may be eligible to get more bang for your buck.
Might not be a bad idea with
Nothing
inflation.
against Lowe's. I'm not trying to take money away from them.
I don't
but-
think anyone's gonna fight you on the Lowe's thing.
I just think it's something that could be an opportunity to help more folks. I think you might, if it was advertised more, you might be able to do more with $528 for them.
Now especially.
I would like to ask a question, because we don't get to see this paperwork.
Okay.
Okay. I live on the street.
on Fannin?
I live at 2808.
Okay.
Is that a rental house?
It's not supposed to.
Okay,
They're supposed to submit paperwork showing that they are the owners and that it is homestead.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
The only
Right,
way they're
stuff that
good
goes
is
into
if
it.
they show that
Right.
they're homesteaded and the owner is
okay.
residing there.
Because that house is actually a block away from me, not even. There has not been a house painted on our street. Except for the party houses that done for that.
We don't, when
So
they,
when
we
does
give
that
them the
have to
paint,
be
but we don't
used
tell them,
by?
they don't give them a deadline to have to do it.
But we did in September, right? They had to use it by August and we had to show photos.
They have to use the voucher they get
Right,
at Lowe's by that date. Now, when they get the paint, since they have to provide the labor to do the work,
okay.
then that's why some houses don't get painted and they're, have the paint sitting there waiting until they can find somebody to paint it.
Or they use it by,
Well, I mean,
as possible.
that's,
I'm just saying that's something
I-
that.
I
thought was
think,
Being checked on
I think
in the
that's,
last couple of meetings.
that's a good point. I mean, I don't think it's anything different.
That
but-
house literally is like a block, not even a block away from.
once they use the paint and the vouchers, they are to submit photos of the house after they've painted it, so that we have
gotten
before and
photos
after.
submitted from 2710,
If they have not painted it yet, then
we
no,
won't have photos.
we won't have photos.
so it's July. So 2 months later. But if we sign up for it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought like we had to sign up for it in July last year. And we had to take photos by the end of August and turn it into you. So because this house was done on 5/5, does it fall in that or not in that?
Well, let me be clear what you're asking though. If you put in the application and you're approved for the paint voucher, you have to use the paint voucher by a certain date.
Okay.
Not that you have to paint your house. You just have to go to Lowe's and get the paint. But some people wait to the very last minute. Or it.
It's cooler weather. I was
Yeah,
just
but
gonna
we didn't
say,
do that in August. They had to actually show photos.
They haven't painted their house then, because they have to bring us photos, or we turn around and charge them for that paint.
yes,
So
So
That's
do we
where
have
the-
any photos of any of the houses that have been done by the paint of?
yes, we do have, yes. In the past years, we do, we have.
In the
Because people are
past
very
years?
proud of it. Yeah, I don't know about
And
this
I
year.
agree. I think it's an awesome, amazing program. But I know this house. It's my street.
If I may, I think this is something that as yard of the month that you're probably going to discuss as part of your subsection of your bylaws. You could also bring up whatever your SOPs would be for this program and any other program that you do. So just, I know one of your SOPs items could possibly, or one of your bylaw items could be that on X month of every year, you're going to submit your draft calendar of the year where you're going to do stuff.
yeah,
Like that's what I mean. Like what you're doing tonight is adding a structure that, as mentioned, may or may not have existed in the past. And if it did exist, now you're going to memorialize it in the form of your bylaws. So in this case, you would go with the subsection A is your standard stuff. You know, this is what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do, so on and so forth. And then subsection B would be specific to this particular board. So for example, for all of our boards, subsection of your bylaws A, which is what I believe is in front of you to discuss first, would be, this is my set of bylaws for all the boards in the city. Generic stuff, Robert's Rule of
Yes.
Order, you know, calling the order, how many members you're supposed to have, so on and so forth. Then subsection B would be specific to this particular board. That was the emphasis when we try to add that for all bylaws, for all boards and their bylaws moving forward. That was the intent. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
no, fine, that's what you're here for, is to help, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that stuff like this, because this is an August, September thing. We see it in May, it's weird.
It usually is, but we've had issues with Lowe's and get the contacts and stuff like that. And so that delays it, but we don't want to put off the entire program. So it gets shifted a little bit. And since it's sort of I don't want to say total background, but since it's a background program, it just sort of kind of runs a little in the background. It's not a it's not a big cleanup. We put it out and it gets, people take pictures and apply to it and stuff like that. But since it sort of runs kind of just in the background, people send in their stuff. If there's hangups with it, then it starts when it can start. And so I think it was this year that we had a hang up with them, and I think it was the past couple years with Lowe's. We had a hang up with them and paint colors got switched and all sorts of stuff. And so things just got adjusted. So it pretty much has run sort of off normal schedule, but so that it can still run, so that we can still offer it.
Which is awesome.
And if you remember, they didn't have anybody that would measure.
Yes, that was a hang up too. We
So
needed someone
there
to
was-
measure. Exactly.
I'm good with it.
Okay, so thank you, Terry, for the financial report. On to our waste management report. You have that, don't you? Which is just, has everybody looked over it?
No, but I'll accept for.
I love seeing it every single time because we always have a 99.9% like happiness rate. Essentially, everything gets picked up and the numbers seem to go up and stuff that gets collected, and no houses gets missed and no barrels get broken, and I really like it. I love waste management. Makes me happy. Also, their reps are amazing. So, okay. Do I have a motion to approve item 6A and B, the financial report and the waste management report?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, on to, I guess, 7A then, since we did not discuss it and it technically,
Debbie has a question.
oh, I'm sorry,
Respectfully.
respectfully.
It's C.
Yeah.
Because I know.
We can bounce around.
Just. out of courtesy,
Anybody
I have
have
a 6-week-old that I'm already in trouble. I'm not home yet. So I
Okay,
know that y'all had some questions of website updates.
yes, so if you're here, that'd be awesome. Okay, let's pop down then to 7C. Discussion action regarding updating the KLMB page on the city's website and social media sites. Hello,
Hello.
who are you and where are you from?
Joshua B. Pritchett, City of Lamarck, Public Relations,
Thank you for being here.
1111 Bayou River.
I don't think you really reside there, but I'll take it.
I spend more time there than I do at home.
Fair enough. I think this is about the city website. Yes. Is that on our Keep Lamarck Beautiful page on the actual city website, things are not correctly updated.
Okay,
There are old commission members on there that need to be taken out. Our new ones need to be put in there. Ashley and Lindsay, for example, are not on there. And the buttons, I think we still have the last time I looked at my, we still have the light up Lamarck button front and center on that page.
the Christmas lights.
Yes.
Okay.
The Christmas lights. And I'm pulling it up now. And then does anybody else have any input on that one? I
I
know
I do have a little bit.
social media was another one, right, Kathy?
Well, this is regarding when people apply for like our Good Neighbor Award or to nominate someone for Yard of the Month.
Mhm.
Now, there was issue that they weren't getting that for quite a while. I think that's fixed, but
Yes.
now it is not giving the page of who nominates. So sometimes we're just getting an address with no name of anybody, no phone number, no contact information. And if I have the nominator page, sometimes they have their information and I can contact them and say, hey, can you tell me more about this? Do you have a number? Do you at least have a name?
I think that's more of an IT
Okay,
question
Well-
because this is generated through Request Tracker
okay,
and if someone goes over there and wants to nominate someone, it also could be them not giving that information.
But if we make it required,
Yeah,
If you make it
Right.
then
required,
they have to.
then they would at
We're gonna
least at
discuss
bare
that.
minimum have to give their name. If that is a directive from
If it's-
the commission, I almost said board, commission, then it can be executed as such, as long as the meeting was posted. That being
So-
said, if it is a requirement based upon for that, we can remedy that. As far as, like like Kathleen was saying, if it was put in anonymously, or even if I make it required, you would then, I would suggest, if at the time that you do discuss that, you discuss the validity of even that required field. Because then if you just say, well, it just has to have a required field for name,
You can put
I could
whatever in.
put your name. I could put a fake name. But then if you did not discuss that in length, as long as there is a value in that field for name, if it was A or AB or whatever, that would meet that requirement. So in y'all's discussion, my suggestion is that you would outline the specifics of that, because if you come back and say, well, there was a name, but it was Donald Duck or whatever the case may be, it still meets that requirement. So if you, in the sense of not to prevent argument in the future, that you would just outline that in your discussion for that of required field. But it can be done.
If I could chime in there too. This is another item that hopefully you'll be able to address during your second subsection of your bylaws tonight, specific to your board, because you can now adjust whatever way you're going to do it, right? And make sure that you're being complete and thorough in that sense of your prior set fields. Once it's established firmly in your bylaws, in your subsection, then we can do whatever you need to.
Absolutely.
So whether it's going to be a form, whether it's going to keep going through request tracker, or request tracker prompts a form to be emailed to the person to complete, that will make sure that all the required fields are done. Only one reason I thought of the other day is let's say you nominated me. Well, what if, with all due respect, and not to be, a less than social person, I said thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather not accept the nomination, right?
and we've had that happen.
And that happens. So maybe there's a way where on a checklist, whatever, one of the boxes could be either administratively, or how forms happen for office use only. One of the questions could be, has the potential person accepted the nomination to even be considered to be brought before you for final vote? So once you establish that process and that gets done on this perspective, then we could see what could be done on our end. And I'm sure the answer will be.
And if
yes.
there is any system limitations, I'll communicate as such, but a required field would not be as that. Such as what Mr. Gonzalez said, if you make a submission and then it emails and then it tweets and things like that, there are certain limitations of the system without going outside of that. And so I wouldn't want just an idea of, if somebody creates a submission and you want this and you want that and you want it to post and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that you would for a yard of the month submission, maybe for the winner, but if there's any limitations through the process, I can be more than willing to communicate.
Okay, I had one more thing. So like with the lights contest, people, well, I'm not sure, Alana, are you taking those pictures, or are people also sending pictures to you?
People do send in pictures, but people are not very good at picture taking. So I do go out and take pictures, yes.
Yeah, okay,
And videos so that you can actually see the
yeah.
houses and the
Okay.
lights.
But I was thinking that that they could submit a photo, even if it's just one of the house with it, then that way everything comes in timely. And the board can vote on it as they see fit, because people look forward to the yard of the month post. That, I mean, that poor lady, she's called me for a month. She stopped calling me now because she was, when's it gonna be online? And people enjoy that. That's one of the things that bring, the city together, is they
Sure.
enjoy it. And so if that could streamline our thing a little bit, because I mean, it takes time once it gets to them, once it gets emailed to me, once I have time to go out. But if the picture is already there, then boom, it can be sent to all of us and then we can
You're-
decide.
Just for clarification, you're saying for a picture to be a required field for submission?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what,
I just,
So
I was making sure I heard you correctly.
quick question for the sake of this discussion. And shame on me for not knowing the answer to this already. Does the Marque KLMBC committee have its own separate subpage?
Yes.
Is it similar how somebody from the outside tags us on something, we could forward it, or is it where we generate the content?
Could you repeat that again, sir?
Do we generate the content or we just push the content?
We're talking about the Facebook page, correct?
Right. Yes.
oh, and I thought you said Lamarck page.
That's where I'm going. Do you
He
have
said
your own
Lamarque.
page?
KLMBC page.
Okay.
So,
Both, the answer to your question is both.
okay, that's where I was going with it, is how it's. the concept
Because,
is-
and I assume that we will get into this question next when we get
Yeah.
into social media. The city, due to it being a boards and commission, it is an entity of the city. Therefore, any and all assets have to be backed up by a third party, just to make sure that we're compliant with the government guidelines. I know because I'm a stickler and got labeled as such when I first got here, because I like to make sure things like that, especially when it's in my department, are T's crossed, I's dotted. And so that being said, sir, the directive of KLMBC to have a point person for content creation in the future would just have to be named, trained on new policy, and put into place, much like discussed with Parks Board.
Yes, that was what I was gonna talk about about social media. Is that very thing.
Are we done with the website?
The,
I mean,
Facebook page.
discussion, the website side discussion or request tracker discussion. I gotta switch my brain.
I'm off that.
Okay.
Are you off? I'm sorry.
Oh,
Are
yeah,
you
I'm
done?
good.
Okay.
Okay.
That was going to be my big and only point was the Facebook page.
I
And it-
expected it.
I know. Just because, we fought really hard to earn that Facebook page. That was before y'all's time here.
Sure.
But so we're really proud to have it
Mhm.
and,
Use it.
use it. And
Absolutely.
like we went to, at least I ended up attending the
Sure.
last, I think one of the last social media policy training sort
Sure.
of seminars the city had, whatever.
Sure.
I attended one of those
Mhm.
and that was when Colleen was here. And
Mhm.
so Colleen gave me permission
Mhm.
to post.
Mhm.
And so that meant that on top of everything that she did, assuming on top of everything that you did or you do, we could just get all our events, just boop, right
Mhm.
up there in the group and then share it out through the
Absolutely.
group. The group gets more exposure. And that was still, but now we have to, now we're, I don't know, did something happen and now that's not allowed?
What would have triggered that was change to
Policy,
the board, potentially,
okay.
change of policy,
Mhm.
reinstatement, as well as updating.
Mhm.
As pointed out, I believe it was discussed in May. I know y'all didn't have a June meeting. I think it was touched on the May. Obviously, I wasn't in attendance, nor was action taken. As we pointed out, even if action taken, we would have to push it to today. Here we are.
Yeah.
So is your question, the question, is it possible again? Absolutely.
Okay.
If KLMBC dictates, hey, we would like X person to spearhead this, that person then goes, reviews new policy, training, and is put in there, then it will be like it used to be.
Okay.
I hope that answers it.
No, that's, I mean, I want to be, if that's what we need to do, so that someone
Yeah.
can make sure that
I think it
our
just
stuff gets,
due to some potential shifts that would have happened here is what triggered that change.
Yeah. I know there were a lot of shifts in here and in the city, and
Sure.
I know there was,
And again, the compliance part of it. So if a point person is no longer on there, a board or commission or anything like that, you're not going to still have them access. Because that violates what a government asset or entity is allowed to do.
right.
Therefore, if y'all decide that you want a specific person to handle that, that's all it is. You second it, pass it, all the above. We go over the policy with said person, some training with said person or persons. Actually, it would be person, I misspoke, due to each board or commission having one liaison for things like that. Then that's all that would need to be
That
done.
person would be able to be trained, and so they could approve
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
the other posts that come through.
If, in full honesty, I mean, if I'm speaking from a public relations standpoint, please find a person, because there's a lot of boards, there's a lot of commissions, there's a lot of different entities of this city. And, you know, if you want to post something about a cleanup this Saturday, we don't want to hinder that message getting out due to, you know, jumping through hoops. But at the same time, if it comes between getting a picture post out and being irresponsible with a government asset, I choose your picture not going out.
Correct.
Correct.
So let me
Respectfully.
let me ask this.
Yes, sir.
Being the fact that Alana had been trained before
Yes, sir.
in that aspect, does she now have to be retrained in order to be able to do what we're discussing at the
The
moment?
training would, the retraining would be due to an updated policy.
I know they've updated the policy, so.
Okay.
And the
so-
policy was really just written because we're in 2022 and the old policy, you know, I don't have a MySpace page anymore. So,
It really
So-
didn't account for social media at all.
so really, one of my first initiatives coming to the city is, well, we don't have this. We don't have public use policy for like our channel 16. We don't have a social media policy for this, that, and the other. And so unfortunately, I've written plenty of those for government entities as well as corporations. And so that was one of the major things, is updating policies that we have for Fair Use Act for government assets, whether it is KLMBC, the fire department administrative assistant that wants to say, hey, look at our firefighters training today. If she is trained and dictated by the fire chief that she can do those, by all means.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I guess,
So to answer your
Other
question,
boards, I
the
think,
re-
wanted to separate other
there
boards.
would be need of retraining. However, due to her being trained in the past, I don't think it would be very difficult. It was just making sure that she has read the new policy. If at any point she didn't understand, and we're speaking to the person that you named, obviously I'm not on this board.
yeah,
I'm speaking
Alana Brown.
hypotheticals with you, absolutely. Would then be retrained. That retraining is just of the updated policy, knowing what you can do, what you can't do legally and ethically, and then signed off on that.
okay,
For the-
so,
May I say something? For the sake of time, because we've got quite a few things on the agenda. If you've rewritten the social media policy that involves the commissions and the boards, could you please make that available to Elizabeth?
Absolutely.
And then a training schedule, or when you would prefer, would you be doing that training?
Yes, ma'am.
Would,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, that would be good for you,
Mhm.
so that we can bring it to the commission and then they can vote on and decide on it and then know what's in front of them.
Absolutely.
well, thank you,
I think
Kathleen,
previous-
because you just
previous
spoke
one,
exactly
we
what I
have
was going to
updated.
say.
Sure. So it is currently on our website. And I will send it to Ms. Childs as well as,
She can contact you. So I need to
Oh,
go,
okay.
but
Okay.
If, and just so you can give us a time when you prefer and what how you would prefer, how many you would prefer to take the training.
sure.
We will likely get that response and ask each city board to, each respective city board to provide at least one representative that is designated amongst the actual board to participate. So that'll be more
I
administrative
think the
order.
Parks Board and this board, are the only commission that have Facebook pages.
The Parks Board doesn't have one, do they?
They should.
They're in the midst of creating one as
Oh,
we
okay.
speak.
Oh, yay, okay.
Yeah.
Right now, it's there.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't know
okay.
they had one yet.
So,
Yay.
so basically, once we have them to, we can, that's administrative. That is just,
Absolutely.
let's get a date and let's conduct it.
And Ms. Childs, I sent you that media request on Teams.
Okay, awesome. So what we have learned here is that all of our little issues can be solved lickety split pretty easily, and we are good. Does anybody have any extra questions for Joshua? He is standing.
And just on the website,
Mhm.
whether it's one of you, two of you, however, whether it's phone call, video call, if you want to send me a screenshot of the page, the information, I can make all of those changes
Okay.
extremely quickly. Obviously, not of all the information of all the boards and commissions and everything like that. Still going through that in the audit, still learning faces and so on and so forth. I will let you know that, and I won't tell you what my grandfather told me about excuses, but
Would you like for me to say that?
yeah, I know that IT has lost the person who had been doing the website. I know how to do it. I will be more than happy to do it. And so when that person left, I know that a lot of stuff did need to be updated. I'm more than happy for each and every person. I've redone everything to date that I've gotten, whether it's people at council or they'll call my office, whatever it may be. If the information is wrong, I definitely want it to be correct. I think that if anything, we have to represent the information of our city to a T. And so if it's wrong, please just educate me and we'll fix it, because we don't want, I think even on our cemetery board, someone called me and said some of those people are unfortunately no longer with us.
Yeah.
And yes, sir. So we had to update that because they can't be on a board on that side. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we'll send you an email just so that it's.
Sure,
there. I didn't know we
absolutely.
had lost an IT person. Does anybody else have any?
No, I'm good.
Thank you all very much.
What? You.
Am I dismissed?
you-
Yes.
You are dismissed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, wait. No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
it's, he barely even stopped walking. He's like, nope, you already dismissed me, bye. Okay, the. Let's hit 7B real quick, because that's gonna be real easy. The plans for the police department lobby. I know that Rashard and I have not been able to get in touch with Yard Excellence. Right, Rashard?
Right.
Right. And so I have talked to Chief about these, and we're gonna work together to maybe come up with a secondary option for them, or
Did we approve the budget for that in May?
we did not approve a budget for it. We wanted to see what we were gonna get for the money. And so Chief also discussed scaling it down too, to something smaller, but still inviting inside of the lobby. So,
Yeah, because they're painting it right now, the lobby.
yeah, that's what I thought they were getting ready to do. So that works out anyway, honestly. So we'll have
Yeah,
to,
just to comment on that. So they have made some changes. They got rid of the candy machine. There was a trip hazard that's been, a soda machine, candy machine, trip hazard's been addressed. They're last stripping the walls and making it a little more inviting. So that's something that's already kind of taking place. However, I mean, whatever other suggestions you may have in the future, I will ask that you just, whatever you do, don't make it too permanent in case we're making some facility changes over
Little-
there.
Pots of plants that can be moved,
Okay, well then
totally,
disregard.
just green spacing things.
Got it.
It is sort of cold when you walk in there a little bit.
Yep.
So, but we can, if anyone would like to make a motion to table that until next month. So that we can. Yes.
Was that not approved in April? Or was that first?
There was no, that
It was brought up in April.
it
and I
wa-
thought it, I didn't think it got tabled, but I thought this was gonna be the second reading of that for approval.
no, we had talked about it, and we wanted to see what we were gonna get for the money as far as the invoice was really sparse. And we've tried to make, but he has a very odd hours, so we will figure it out going forward, and we've got some time since they are painting. So I already excused you, sir.
Okay, I have just a little question.
Mhm.
You were talking about trip hazards and all the other things being moved out of the lobby. I don't want us to go and do beautiful plants there, and then they say, oh, it blocks the door, it's not enough space for handicap or something like that. So,
It's interesting you say that. We are about to go an ADA review of some of our city buildings here really soon. So if that were, that's another reason why that we're just doing a few things that are going on over there.
That's what I went and actually looked and took pictures and scoped out the lobby to see
Yeah.
what would even fit.
Yeah, if
there,
it's something
what would
small, I don't
block
think it'll be in the
doorways
way.
or emergency exits and things like that.
Would artificial plants be appropriate there? So we have to be careful.
I don't know, they're kind of cheesy.
Somebody's
We've
got to take care of
I'm
them.
just saying, we got a lot of gardeners.
It's funny you say that because, and God, I start to think stuff and I tell myself to just be quiet. But I know we're about to paint the walls, but I just thought of something that was just kind of different. Since we're trying to do different, right?
Different is good.
Maybe a mural, but I was actually thinking even a rather inexpensive thought is instead of paint, maybe the turf, the artificial turf that we put on grounds. Put that on the wall and put a nice logo on the wall. I think it'll just be different. And now you're getting some of the greenery. It's artificial and it doesn't. Again,
It's
I'm
like
just,
those green panels you can get at Target in the
Yeah.
dollar spot.
Oh, okay, I kind of like that.
I mean,
If you see it up, it
It-
actually
it-
looks really good.
it might look good. It might look good. I don't know. I mean,
It's a big trend right now on TikTok and the social medias.
I have
it actually
kids and
does.
they keep me in tune with that stuff.
Each individual leaf once a month. So,
What do you,
Are we
it's
talking about
turf. You
little
don't.
blades
they're-
of grass?
No, they're
Do
not.
you think stuff just good stuff like Pixie does?
You just.
That's
take
the
a-
easiest thing to do. Actually, once it's up, if you, I mean, first of all, we'd be remiss. We're talking, I'm not talking
we
carpet, but I'm
cover
talking
this in
about
turf?
like, essentially, it's just like fake grass.
It's AstroTurf.
It's like astroturf. That's all it is.
We can
It's just,
vacuum it
it gives
once
it
a
a different touch.
If
I
you
don't know.
can't do something in the lobby, do the ADA compliance, or if there is such a thing for that, what about where the flagpoles are? Why not do something out there, or the sign is or something? You know?
I think the intent was to soften the entrance a little bit.
A little bit.
That entrance is hot. I
Well,
would not want to be a plant living in that entrance.
well, that's why
That's
I'm
why we
saying.
have plants of steel, Kathleen.
If the, I mean, another
They
thing,
will melt.
I'm sure that if you talk to the garden club, which I had the pleasure of meeting with today,
Miss Viv, yep, Miss Viv.
I think they would like to maybe coordinate and do several things that you may be trying to think of.
Oh, I got her in my little blue.
Just saying.
pocket right there.
Just saying.
I got Miss Viv in here.
I will go back to being quiet.
She's, yeah, but we can explore options, get in touch with Sam, talk to Chief about alternatives. Because they're redoing the lobby, so.
And that's a really easy fix to do. It's just about buying as much as you need. You don't need the type that people are gonna be running on, just the type that looks green and fills
I
up
buy it
the.
for my snake's tank, so I know exactly
Yeah,
what you're
you
talking
could
about.
probably just go with staple gun and get it done faster than painting, and
Mhm.
probably cheaper.
It would be.
Like your Velcro,
Velcro,
Velcro.
we want to, what's gonna be easier? All right, we'll
So
circle
are we
back. then.
tabling that, or is it an action item?
No, there's no action taken on it, except, do you want to make a motion to table it for next month? Until
I
next
think
month?
you're waiting to hear back from the art excellence, aren't you?
Yes, waiting to make contact with them in their hours.
Yeah, we can table.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to table that till next month.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, 7B will be moved to August's meeting. All right, circling back to 7A, selection of yard of the month. Now, this is July's meeting. And for June, Miss Kathy had already, just based on what,
No, I
What
believe
are-
it was for the May meeting, I believe, wasn't it? It was May.
it was for the May yard. Okay.
Yeah, so we did not have June and we do not have July.
Do you currently have the sign?
I have the sign.
So that was for May. Okay. Since we didn't even have a June meeting, so, okay, that works out. So July, and we're not too far into July.
So I was gonna say this, what's his name, Yarborough? That was one of the ones that I had gotten right after I got Bowie, and they did submit photos. So that was gonna be the one that would have been June.
Jimmy Yarborough?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, they have two, Avenue A, correct?
Yes, okay, so that would have been my number 2 for June. But I mean, we can do them for July if y'all approve. I don't remember. I've slept since that's 2 months ago.
Yes, it says yard.
Okay.
What's the address?
Because he said a whole bunch of, yeah, he had sent a bunch of photos, and I think I sent them all to Elizabeth.
A cute little, a red door. That's very indicative of Episcopalian churches.
So there should be more photos, because he sent me a bunch, yeah. And I think some people are nominating themselves, and so I think that to give them the opportunity to take their own photos, that way we've got them,
I mean,
you know.
no harm in that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they're
I mean,
proud of
if
it. That's very
If
pretty.
you've got a beautiful, yeah, like you said, if they're proud of it, then you're proud. There's,
And like we had discussed before, it's like it does not have to be, the London Botanical Gardens.
no,
It's if people take pride in it and they're taking care of it, then, by all means. And for a while, we were having such a difficult time even getting
but
nominations.
it's nice to have a,
It is. That 1114 Prune, we've never gotten a phone number, a name for that, anything.
nothing.
So that's why I wanted to just take that off the list, because it's like, we need, if we're gonna do this, we need to do it efficiently and have all those things filled out.
Very fair.
And we
Okay.
should have the ability to, if Donald Duck, as he said, nominates a yard that doesn't exist like I've been sent to before, then, we have the right to just go ahead and say no, So I would like to just take Prune off because they never have done their thing.
Okay, Bowie was for May. I'm just going through how I stapled them. sorry.
Yeah.
Barondo Stretch,
Yeah, I believe Terry nominated that, although I didn't get that piece of paper.
and then we,
I did submit it through the,
Mhm. Yeah, they didn't, when they sent it, they didn't have the nominations, that didn't have a phone number.
the next,
Yeah, I don't, there was no picture submitted, I haven't been there.
oh, we got next door neighbors.
What?
We have next door neighbors.
Oh, yeah, I
Apache
see that.
Field.
I have not been there, because I didn't have any, I think those were the ones where I didn't have any names.
We got some-
1408 Bowie, that was the one.
we
Yeah,
got
that
some
was the
names
one
now.
that I put out in May, and then I submitted the pictures to the Facebook page, but I don't know what we want to do with that.
So that's July, so July. That was May, so we have Barondo, well, she did Bowie. for-
Yeah, I did
no,
Bowie
she
for
did Bowie
May.
For May. And then the next one is Mr. Yarborough. So July, we want to get the whole point
Is like get ahead of
is
the
to get
game.
ahead so that we can all see them and then approve them. That way it's done. That way you know, and everybody, we all know, and then it gets put out on the first of the month. And everyone gets it from the first day to the last day of the month, kind of,
Yeah, that's
how it-
kind of what we wanted.
yeah.
So do we want to hold off and do it for August for him? Because I mean, we're already what, 13 days in? So,
We are already 13 days in.
I have a question. We have multiple entries. Are we gonna vote on it? Or-
That's kind of what we're talking about, how to
Okay.
structure them. No,
Well,
Mr. Yarborough came in after. So the question here is then, do we skip July since our point is to get ahead of the game? Do we skip July? And so that no one has to deal with just having it for half of the month
that's
and
what
make
I'm
him,
saying.
yeah, and make him for August?
Because it's
and
not
then-
fair. No.
I agree.
You
I
need
think
to take action on the ones that are on the agenda.
Yeah,
We are.
he's on- yeah.
So all these.
Yeah.
just
And are we gonna
Regardless of what
renominate?
month it is,
And
so
then,
just to make sure each one gets.
And out of fairness, I was trying to do them in the order that they were submitted. I felt that was fair instead of just jumping around.
Sometimes I just pull them and staple them all together.
Oh, no,
so
no, no.
that's my bad.
Whenever they send them to me, I was keeping them in order of how they were
Yeah.
submitted.
Yeah,
So that's why.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt.
they have dates on them.
Just a point of order. I think to answer your question, Mr. Pettijohn, I believe what you're asking is we would need to have a motion to approve these subsequent to,
there's only one. It's right. I mean, there's only 1 yard of the month.
Correct?
So now
so
my question is, once we vote on one of these,
What to do with the others?
then they have to be renominated again? Or,
great question, which I think you should address and come up with in your subsection of your bylaws.
Okay, well. what
That's a
I
great
was-
question. That makes total sense.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
like I said, we are few and far between on nominations. Wintertime, we hardly get anything. So the way we've been doing it, to be fair, is I tell people, I'll say, hey, what do you, because everybody that gardens, you're going to take pictures of your beautiful blooms when they're blooming. And I'll
absolutely.
say, shoot me those pictures. We're going to use the best of what you got because we may put you in October and stuff's dying back. So we want to show the best of the best at that time. So they may not be able to get it in May when everything is blooming beautiful, but they may get it later. And I can put those pictures in. I can put whatever they've got in.
Their yards still always look nice anyway.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just-
But you want them to have that pride because, these ladies are crazy about their hibiscuses. I'm
It's a
telling you.
big deal in this city. It really is.
Wow, I mean, it's great. It shows a lot of pride, and I think for where you're going with it, I think it just makes sense. I think whatever your decision ultimately is that you come up with, so you have a structured set of subsection bylaws, put that in that subsection of how you're going to do it moving forward. Remember, you guys are here now, but when you set these bylaws up that you're going to hopefully review every couple of years to make changes at, you can put that together, type up what that looks like for each subsection. And since you don't have them tonight, and for the sake of time, since we're probably only going to get through the first subsection tonight, it seems like maybe what you do is you assign each member a subsection. So for example, it sounds like there's a committee, which is yard of the month, which Ms. Kathy, you take care of, it seems like. And then there's the cleanups, which is, I don't know who leads that. So if you subdivide your subsection, I'm sorry if I'm going winded with this, but hey, why don't you draft what you think the procedure should be for that? Why don't you draft the one for this? Why don't, who does the actual cleanups? You guys do 2 cleanups a year. Who leads that? Then you come back with that or send that to staff during the month. We get that typed up nice and neat. We make sure it makes sense. We're not missing anything. You come up with essentially your SOPs that you're going to tie into your bylaws. So I think
Divide and conquer is what you're saying.
only because you're spreading the wealth and each one of you has your niche, if you will, and your task. Each one of, not to say the word baby, but each one of you has your baby and what you're doing. You're probably going to be more versed at it. You're going to be more passionate the way you do it. You're going to be more explicit in how you put your set of bylaws, because you're not writing these for you now. You're writing for who's going to be this subcommittee member and the future members of this committee 50, 60, 100 years from now. I mean, obviously it'll change every couple of years when we want to update or add something new, a new program that you may want to add. For example, I know, Rashad, you are very passionate about ditch and ditch cleanup and so on and so forth. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe that's what you want to add as part of this program. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this stuff ultimately and what direction you want to take this board, because you have so much potential that we haven't even tapped into yet, I think. And I want to share some of those ideas with you. I don't know if you, like Parks had a workshop or a retreat, if you will, if you have considered scheduling one. It makes these meetings honestly a little bit longer, but you get a forum with which to say, all right, look, we're going to plan our year and we're going to talk about new things. Like, what new things would we like to do? What new ideas do we want to, maybe new initiatives to have?
In the past, we have done workshops.
So I think that, yeah, I think it might be a nice thing to do.
We used to do them quarterly.
But maybe in that sense now, for example, I'll tell you one thing, and just from driving around the city, one of the things that I would envision, who knows how long from now, but it's a stormwater thing, but it's also a beautification thing, is for us to be a digitalist city, right? So maybe one of the things that could be done is move forward and say, hey, here's where you're moving to the future, right? Hey, code or development services, could you consider what an ordinance would look like that any new development in the city of Lamarck, what would it take for that to include in that new development that they will now add culverts to their ditch, so there's no more ditch in front of that home that's developed on that land?
Like absorbent roads.
Again, this is where
Yeah.
this is where you would task that and say, hey, what does this look like? Or to help our staff that is already extremely overworked is, hey, this city has this is how they do it. Here's what they do. Can we look into that?
That's why all our new stuff, we really do try to flesh out amongst ourselves as much as humanly possible
Love it.
before it comes to them. That way they don't have to. Their job is to help us, I feel. Our job is to do this.
Right.
This is our job, this is our baby, and we do it to
And-
the best of it.
But for example, that's how you make an administrative change that helps you in the future.
Yeah.
Right? If right now our code says, all right, we don't proceed to put a lien on our property or go abate a property until it's 24, the grass is 24 inches high, well, maybe should we consider changing that to 18 inches? Could you consider that? And if they look at that and that makes sense, then your board would make a suggestion to council and say, we would like for you to consider a current ordinance, consider a change of current ordinance that says, change it from this to this.
Mhm.
The one I just mentioned about new development. I mean, we got some new plots being developed in the city. How cool would it be to say is, hey, you want to come develop in the city? Great, but we want you to, do X, Y, or Z. And there's already impact fees going for whatever the situation may be, park fee or stormwater fee, whatever it is. Those type of things help the neighborhood. And because as we know, if one or two new lots get developed on your lot and they have culverts and nice drainage, me as a neighbor, I'm like, oh, that looks really nice, actually. And then they're gonna go take care of it. Now it makes it easier for that homeowner to maintain their ditch all the way through.
Yeah.
Just little odd end things, suggestions maybe for moving it forward in that, because that's really, the fact that you roll your sleeves up and do the work is amazing and it's commendable, but that's the other side of it. That's to, you'd have a whole lot less ditches to clean if eventually everybody started moving to that. Or if we could get a really rich uncle or apply to FEMA and say, look, we're gonna do some roads, we're gonna try to create a program where we pay for a percentage of it and the resident only has to pay for another percentage should they take advantage of it.
I'm gonna call my rich uncle.
Let me know, and I got about 10 ideas I'd like to put this way.
Well, while we're still in this, okay, now,
These other three.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, if we do this Yarborough on August, we'll go, can we approve this? September, October, these other ones, and I have not seen them, but I would like to leave the precursor if,
Are you talking about Apache Field?
yes.
Do you want to leave Apache
Well,
Field?
no, I would like to just go ahead and approve them, but if something is dastardly wrong, when I get there, because that's what we've normally done. We go, we approve, we see stuff. So if I get there and it's a vacant lot or it's a trash heap, then we say, okay, no, that one did not qualify. We move on to the next, but at least we've got them for the next several months.
Okay, so we have August,
Yeah, we've got August will be
so September. Kathy,
September and
who-
October.
Who's,
We'll
because
just go
I
ahead.
have Barondo and then the
Oh,
two
I'm sorry.
Apache Fields.
Okay, I missed Barondo. Okay, so we'll make that one a September. I mean,
Barondo,
yes, you want to do that one September? Now, it's a beautiful yard. She has a wonderful
I know
landscaper.
you would know exactly where it is, because you live over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so we'll do 338 as October, and then that puts us to November. And then we get ready for our big December.
And
If
we're
that's,
ready
if that's gonna be all right with you, that keeps us on track. Because like I said, that is a popular thing that we do.
And if these don't pan out and these fall through, we get more nominations in. we can
Yes,
swap them
yeah,
out.
but at least that way we've got something on the agenda and we don't have this fighting and bickering back and forth because people,
Well, we'll be ahead of the game. We'll be able to, we've seen these yards,
but also I do want whoever nominates them. You know, because that way I have a second layer of, if they transpose a number in the phone number and I'm calling these people and there's no answer, you know, because maybe somebody wrote it down wrong, but then I
well,
can
like
go.
I said, let's make sure to put that in the sub. in
Yeah,
the
yeah, and I will, I'll
subsection
write
that
all
way.
this down, but yeah, let's just let y'all
Yeah.
know. Because we used to always get who the nominator was, and then it just stopped recently.
I think some people get lazy. Okay, so this would put us ahead of the game like we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And set us up for the next several months. If some of them fall through and we get new ones in, then we can reevaluate those with the pictures. Kathy
Mm-hmm.
can reevaluate those, but so as it stands, we would need to approve 715 Avenue A for August yard of the month. Start,
Are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Put it on record that you're gonna do signs.
Oh, yeah, I'm on record. I've been doing it for a while now. She's put it on record. You're gonna deliver the signs, yep.
yeah, she's
All
still the committee chair. Okay, so 715 Avenue A, August yard of the month.
Yep.
And then 1 Barondo stretch, September. And then 338 Apache Field Lane for October.
Mhm.
And then tailing us into November would be 340 Apache Field Lane.
Okay, what subdivision is Apache Field Lane? And I'm not even familiar with that. Oh, Saltgrass, okay,
It
so,
sounds like a Sawgrass.
oh,
Oh,
Painted
is it
Meadows?
Painted Meadows? Okay.
Okay, yeah, but like I said, when I saw these come through, I don't think it had a name. It didn't have anything on the papers that I got, and that makes it hard. Yeah,
Well, so at least we've got this one, 340 has a number and the other one is the neighbor. And they're all really nice over there in Sawgrass.
okay, good.
So,
So we'll try to get those, and then that way. like I
or
said,
Painted Meadows.
Yeah, we're done.
whatever.
Good, I'm glad you knew that.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant to say. Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to approve August, September, October, and November yards of the month?
I will make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Yay. Way to go, guys. We got ahead of the game. I like it. Okay. See 7D, discussion possible action regarding purchasing trees for Arbor Day. Miss Lindsay,
Is that me?
take it away, girl.
Okay, so I was so excited to be on this part. I called several nurseries and I got a really good connection with Jimbo's Nursery down in Santa Fe. And she's giving us a great deal, 3 gallons for $30. And she's also gonna go above and beyond and put the care packages for each tree. She said, some people might not know how to plant it, which I think that's amazing and no extra cost. She's gonna put on every single tree. Then she also gave us a breakdown of what tree she's going to give us.
Okay, so I'm looking
Oh,
for
here, Stevie. And she gave us all different kinds of fruit trees. She's also gonna put that in her private area, so she'll take care of them until the day of. She will like to deliver them Saturday morning. Because the day of our event, yes, our event will be November 19th.
November 19th.
Oh, you got me.
Well,
Oh,
that's what she
that's-
wrote.
Oh, okay, but it's the 19th.
It's the 19th, yes. It's
Okay,
supposed to
I
be the
love Arbor
19th.
Day. Okay.
Which the location already has been cleared through
Yes.
Public Works as well.
And where's it gonna be?
Highland,
Island by
Oh,
the
Island
okay,
pavilion. Rather than trying to put trees
over here.
out here,
Okay.
So she's fantastic.
that would be great. Well, she's gonna deliver them the morning of, which is great, but we'll have a good drive through there at Highland Bayou. And it's a big, great green space. So if someone wants to stop and ask, stop with their tree and ask extra questions, they have space to do that. And it'll give us the space and utilize the park a little bit more. So,
So, our budget was $299.
$2,999.
Yeah, so we saved $5. She's not charging us tax as well since we are exempt. And so I hope,
I'll make a motion to approve Arbor Day. Yay, yay, yay.
yes,
I'll second.
awesome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Motion passes. Purchase?
You're approving.
Oh, we're gonna approve the
Purchase.
amount? Okay, okay, I'll make the motion to approve $29.95 for 88 plants for Jimbo's Nursery for Arbor Day.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. The cost for receiving trees from Jimbo's Nursery, at the cost of $2,995 passes for Arbor Day. We need to make sure that we get her the tax exempt forms and stuff like
Wait,
that.
Mr.
I
Garcia.
don't have
seems to
any
have-
questions about this item. I'm just wondering, do we have any nurseries in the Marque? I haven't seen one yet, but is there one?
We don't actually have any nurseries inside the Marque, not that can do this sort of volume. Is that a landscaper, like we talked about for the police department? But most of them, I think the closest we have in Lamarck would be Joe's Country Store. And he
Yes,
does
love
have
that one.
trees, yeah, and he's in there, but for him, and I've talked to him about it before in the past, it's harder for him to get the trees. With the staff, it's harder for him to take care of them. So, I mean,
Yeah, he didn't want to be responsible for them whenever the
Yeah.
shipment would come, yeah.
we would need to have taken care of them for a few months or something like that, and that was just,
That's not what we want.
they would have died, probably, they would have
And
died.
Joanne's willing to do that, so.
So, really, we get a lot of bonuses for the money, honestly, when it comes down to it, so that, it's amazing, I'm really excited, Austin does this program.
Yes.
That's why we went with fruit bearing trees, is because it promotes permaculture and people feeding themselves, pollinators and the like. So we're really excited.
And I've had people buy every day for 2 weeks picking figs at my house because I've got 3 big trees.
Did you
So-
also know that fruit bearing trees cut down on pollen?
Oh,
Did you know that?
nope.
They do. Tamara told me that fact. We learned it. Anyway. Sorry. 8A, yard of the month parameters. We're gonna throw those in with, we're doing those in with bylaws though.
Okay.
Correct. Okay,
So
let's,
do y'all want me to write that up for the bylaws and then we'll do it next meeting?
if that is,
Because that's what Caesar was kind of suggesting, was that each of
Yeah.
us take what we do.
let's see. Hold on. New business, we took care of Arbor Day. The new program ideas. Let me, here, let's circle back to that in just a second, Kathy. We'll knock this out.
I think you need to decide what your parameters are gonna be for that before you can put it in the.
Into the bylaws.
Oh,
So you
Okay,
agree to how you want this program to run,
and then put them in.
since you're all here.
We
Oh,
are-
okay.
we are-
And that way, then you can look at what you put into the bylaws.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna discuss that now. So do you want me to put my wish list out here?
Do you want to? We can,
Yeah, okay, well, she says now's the time, so, all right, I will talk about this. One, like I was saying, is we have opened it up for everybody to be able to have yard of the month. And it's what makes that person proud. We're not, I would suggest we don't have these Taj Mahal type rules. If people love their yard and they're out there doing something, I think they should all be viable candidates. I also would like to stick with how they come in, how they get
I
nominated.
literally just pulled some suggestions from
Oh.
other affiliates.
okay.
That's all that this is.
Okay, and I want to read this.
Just in case.
Okay, so that was kind of my idea, is that as they come in, that way, because people send them, and if you don't call them and say, hey, we're looking at you for January, if we just wait and vote on them and they have to renominate, I think it takes a lot of the excitement out of it. Then they're like, oh, well, they're not gonna pick me anyway, that type of thing. So I'm
Yeah.
like, because I try to contact people and say, hey, would you consider, when I've got their contact information. So I kind of want to go with that.
Reach in as soon as they, reach out as soon as they. come in.
Yeah, because like with these other ones at Yarborough, I messaged him and I said, hey, do you have photos of your yard? We're considering you.
Mhm.
And then I got the wrong brother apparently, but anyway, he said, no, it's my brother, and he sent me tons of photos.
Okay.
Some of the other ones aren't, but just that type of deal. Also, how are we gonna feel about artificial flowers? Normally, I don't like them, but we had a lady that we picked right at the end of winter, for first part of spring. And hers was like one of the best houses we've ever picked, but she put artificial flowers up just so she had some color for our photos. So I'm okay with that.
I'm not opposed to artificial flowers. I feel like as long as maybe they don't
Yeah.
look like art, but that's aesthetics. That's
Yeah,
aesthetics.
yeah, but I just wanted to make sure because they were looking, y'all are asking for different things. So it's like when I took the picture, you couldn't tell, you just saw that pop of color back there. It didn't look like, okay, I've got 2 sprigs of dollar store flowers with colors that aren't natural,
That's
know?
something that it doesn't, you don't have, you can be as restrictive or non-restrictive as you want, but you don't have to put it in the bylaw,
Oh, okay.
in the parameter, because y'all have never looked at that before.
Well,
It's always
well,
been
no.
just the yard.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of things that we haven't looked back before, but I'm getting a lot of flack for, so I just want to
We
clarify that.
did when Viv was on the board and then we
Yeah.
eased up and so
Yeah.
it kind of got
Yeah.
wonky. So
Yeah, that's how we did. No, she was very, very strict
was
on
very
things.
strict.
She would not even accept new growth. If it had not been
No.
established, you could forget it. So I'm trying to,
she
like I
runs
said,
garden club.
it's
She's
very expensive to plant things. So if somebody's got it and it's going before the 110-degree heat burns it up, I'm all for, hey, you went out, you did this, you tried, let's do it, that type of thing. So here's some things that are on Alana's list that she got. Recipients must reside in the city of Lamarck and live within the city limits, absolute agreement.
We've already, yeah.
Okay, awards are for a single calendar month. Awards will be in the yards from the first day of the month until the last day of the month. Okay, I'm in agreement with that, but sometimes I will pick them up depending on if it's like a weekend, something like that. So if it's gonna be like a Thursday, and so that I will have them, because I have to schedule my time too of when I can bring them. That hasn't been a problem. But
That's not a problem, but
Yeah,
generally
so-
a calendar month.
yeah, so we try to do it,
Mhm.
okay. While an individual's home is being recognized as yard of the month, they are expected to maintain their yard in the same manner that allowed them to win the title.
Like I said, I pulled these from some of the other affiliates, but thinking if we're gonna, which I didn't even think about, the fact that we do approve them later into the season
Mhm.
when they don't look exactly the same, not exactly necessary, but still
Yeah.
everyone's yard is still really kept up and
Yeah.
free of trash and debris and things
Yeah,
like that.
and I
so-
really feel like our people, they do that,
Our
'cause-
gardeners
yeah,
do for sure.
Oh, yeah, because they'll always come and tell me, can you wait till I mow? Can you come Wednesday instead of today? And so that's another reason I say for the waiting of it may not be on the actual first because they'll tell me to wait. Okay, yard of the month candidates are judged solely on the total exterior appearance of their property and front yard as viewed from the street, as well as their backyard if it is part of their total overall gardening and landscape efforts. Some folks don't have much of a front yard and it is the backyard that's really popping.
That's why I put that in there.
Yeah, so, but judge totally on the exterior,
The
What-
judge on the, including the front and the back
And
exterior
that- Just
yards.
the
Okay.
total,
The totality of
yeah,
of the
okay,
property.
all right, okay.
which I think we do anyway,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, because like I said, some people, it is the backyard, Okay, yards must be free of litter, clutter, debris, random objects, trash, large debris, trash cans. Extra signage should not occupy the landscaping signs such as Monarch Way Station, certified wildlife habitat. School spirit signs are acceptable as they contribute to the overall goal of KLMB to promote community in Lamarck, okay?
I see where you're going with that, but I don't think you can legally tell them they can't have any other signs in their yard. You're walking on a freedom of speech issue, so, and I don't think that's in your scope. That's not
That's a
what
fair
you're
point.
wanting, is to restrict.
No, I don't
their
know.
house.
I'm just, the aesthetics of it.
I agree.
You know what I
but
mean?
That's not how it appears when you read through it. So
I mean, my wording may be totally
it's
off,
your own
but
decision, but I'm just saying, if somebody has
I
a.
think, I think for a point of order, maybe rewording it where you're saying, for purposes of acknowledgement, it would be preferred if no other signs were there. However, if such, please try to keep them X distance away from each
Right.
other, just for
Yeah.
aesthetics and for whatever.
that's
just
what
a thought.
that's what I was getting at there, just so it's not cluttered up and, because I know people do.
Make it so it's a certain size, like, we have, I'm sorry.
No,
We
like
have
the
all
smaller
those
ones.
Police signs out there that say, back to blue.
Right.
I think that should be acceptable.
I don't
Do
disagree.
you
They're not a
accept that maybe
distraction
we should not
from the
have
yard.
these, 3 foot by 6 foot signs in the front yard? No, I don't agree. Y'all know, but I don't feel it should be allowed. I mean, for sale signs should be okay, rental signs, back to blue school signs. It's, but I get what Kathleen
You
said.
can't,
I mean, it
you
is
can't take
pretty
the
misleading.
photos off of
So
the-
maybe
get that
it needs to
too.
be a certain
Yeah.
But at least
size,
maybe for
like
the month, not have it
over.
cluttered
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
pictures, you know what I mean?
Because.
The one thing that I want in the thing is that we approve it before.
Before, I'm
And
glad
so
you
the
said that.
aesthetics,
That's the only
that's
thing.
what we can decide what's aesthetic, and if, when it's acceptable to everyone, we can approve it.
I'm glad you said that because I was
Okay,
waiting to
so
say
which
that.
one of y'all want to drive out to 338 Apache and 3340 and send me some pictures tonight?
It won't be the
Well,
night.
depending on
it won't
what
be
time you get
tonight.
out of here,
It won't be
dark,
the- it
so-
won't be the night.
It might not be tonight, it might be dark. but-
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, there was many that I've had to just do because certain people have pushed it this way. Also, what about religious signs, Easter, the Christ is risen and stuff? That's why I'm saying I'm kind of iffy on the sign thing.
Well, I just meant, and I
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
probably
I know.
worded really not the right way, but that free of clutter essentially,
Yeah.
so it doesn't look cluttered and it doesn't take away from the landscaping efforts. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know
Like,
what you mean.
like Eva mentioned with the
Just,
4
And
foot
again,
thing.
as long as we all approve.
Yeah, we all
If
approve.
the sign's there and we approve,
But
that's
that's
fine.
free then to the community on what is allowed and what isn't.
Yeah, it's someone's personal preference as opposed to
Right.
what's fair and right.
It's your
It's
preference.
it's aesthetics. It's aesthetic.
Right,
Aesthetic.
that's what I said, the size of the sign. I'm sorry.
and it's also, and I hate to just talk about this, we're talking about signs, which I know is Miss Kathleen's second favorite subject of her discussion, but just make sure whatever signs are posted are in complete compliance with our sign ordinance. Obviously, I assume that they already are, but I just thought I'd say that as a general disclaimer, because that might address a lot of these issues as well. So maybe if you say something in accordance with our sign ordinance, make sure there's no other violations on there. Something else that's on there, and I just thought of this out of the blue, maybe one of the systems of checks and balances when you're doing this is to consider making sure that the person or the home doesn't have a violation. For example,
I have that noted somewhere, actually.
okay, all
Aha.
right, so I'm thinking, how silly would it be that we're possibly, I don't know if it's happened or not, giving somebody a award for yard of the month, but they have a violation for, I don't know, maybe an
Chickens.
excessive trash pile. Well, I'm not, that was her favorite discussion. I wasn't gonna bring that up tonight. But I don't know if, it may be unfair to say somebody cannot get an award for one thing when it's something different. But just,
I already talked about it for 4 hours one time. I went through a court case for a year.
okay.
We're good.
We're good.
Found that one address didn't exist. Yeah. Okay. Like I said, I just hate making more work for code compliance, but they said that they can kind of look at that if they've got any reports before they send that to me. So maybe that'll take that issue away. Okay.
I just think to avoid the ahas out there that may occur.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe not even take it as the signs themselves, but yard debris and other items that distract away from the,
Okay.
What, the purpose, right? The purpose.
yeah, there you go. Like if you can't see the yard because of it, like,
Yeah, like that one.
Yard debris,
Yes.
anything like that, we already have a code compliance case on it. So
probably.
when this would be submitted for that yard,
You would flag.
it would be, she would be able to see it right off.
Okay.
Can
Yeah,
I-
because we got sent to one over on
So it'd be
DeRoe
worse
Street
like y'all used to.
and I couldn't even get down the
Any code
sidewalk
compliance violation.
because everything was all going together.
Kathleen,
like
let
free of
me
litter,
ask this
clutter,
question.
debris, No sign or no code violations.
The city of Texas City and a couple other cities I know, when there's a violation on the property, they put the sign out there. Is that something that you all have considered? You know, the signs that says this property is in violation. City of Texas City, they
We
got,
don't do that. We don't do that.
why not? Is the question.
That's not on the agenda. We really should talk about it now.
Yeah.
We can talk about that later, but not.
Okay,
it's
okay.
not on the agenda.
Oh, okay. So as we're talking about this, we're going to X out this part. We're just going to put as number 5, no code violations. And that will be checked by code enforcement. I am not a code enforcement officer. I've never been trained. Therefore, I don't want any flack when somebody goes in second, quarterback, armchair quarterbacks me to come up with some other kind of crap.
As
So,
long as they don't have trash in their yard.
yeah, exactly. Or, fighting dogs in the front yard or something like that. Okay, number 6, aesthetics. The overall look and landscaping, use of color, textures, and garden. That's a little bit, that's more structured. I think, some of our people, they're doing good to have what they have.
That's how, look at 7. Look at 7.
That's a, oh, abstract nature.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with these.
They were just like bleh
Okay.
on a paper.
Well, I'll just for record, I'll read them. So number 6 is aesthetics. The overall look and landscaping, use of color, textures, garden art, etc., is important. The front entryway should be inviting with original and creative touches to show personality, hanging baskets, pots, yard art, bird feeders, etc. Number 7, yards of an abstract nature, complete pollinator habitats, front lawn gardens, etc., are not to be disqualified. Yards that have a specific purpose and contribute to pollinators, food security, permaculture, water conservation, etc., and do not have a manicured look to them are welcome and wanted as yard of the month programs. I'm in absolute agreement.
Not the ones that are violation in code,
Yeah.
the ones that are in code, like AJ's yard,
Yes.
Yep. Oak Lawn. Mhm.
Yeah. So see, there is precedence for somebody not liking a yard that was picked for yard of
Oh,
the month.
everyone did not like that yard.
Yeah, so that was a lot of
Loved
stuff.
it.
So I am not the only one here for a scandal. Thank you very much.
But
Now,
that's,
some people could get over it, so we could all work together. That'd be
that's
really
why,
great.
that's why we ended up coming in after Viv left and decided we wanted to do a little bit more loosey goose, not
Mhm.
loosey goosey, but a little bit more loosely structured so that more people would be. Dude, I was really surprised that she chose him, but for the reason I understand, and that's a good reason for us to choose a yard as well, because that's a really big point for us.
You can also word that the approval or the choice of the yard of the month is solely the decision of the keeper market commission.
Okay.
Instead of having to detail out what is gonna be accepted, what's not gonna be accepted, what, and try to cover
That's what
everybody and
I like that.
everything.
I like
Then
that.
what it boils down to is you're gonna vote on it, you're gonna go look at the charts. So then you just
Or see
vote on it,
pictures.
keep it short and clean.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, and like
Because
that's,
there's yards in Lamarck that I look at that I wouldn't think that that was nice, but it's a wildlife yard. So, it's pretty cool in the spring when it's wildlife, the flowers bloom. Right now, it looks like weeds. but
yeah, and that's why I would really like to have the photos added as part of the submission process, because I don't ever want to be accused of nepotism. I've not picked a single yard of the month. They are all the ones that have come in. Other people here have put forth ones. So I would like it to just be where I am not
We're
getting
gonna
blamed.
get to that.
Okay,
We're gonna get to that because that falls under when the submission is made.
okay,
And then you're gonna decide, okay, if they submit a nomination for an address and there's no contact information, but you know the address.
mhm,
They gave you the quote, what they think of the yard, but there's no contact information for the nominator.
mhm.
Then you will decide, okay, if that's not there, we don't vote on it. It's not approved.
Okay. that's what
However
I
you want
do.
to do it. If they don't fill out complete the application completely with pictures and everything, all your parameters, then they're not voted on.
Good, that's exactly what I wanted.
Or you can choose to whoever's nominated on that committee wants to try to reach out to them.
Reach out to them.
Mhm.
So it's either way y'all would want to do it. It's your choice. You either say, if you can't fill it all out completely so we can contact you, then we're not going to vote on it.
Mhm.
It won't be added.
Okay, and maybe they can have that little kickback on there. Well, I don't know about programming, but sometimes it'll say that's not a legit phone number, or that's not a legit something that it'll kick it back. So we're not getting fake ones.
There's not necessarily, that's not something that, if it was a fake one, we wouldn't know it anyway, but if it wasn't a complete application, you'd know it right off.
Yeah.
So if they come in, she puts it on the agenda, you look at, say, well, are there pictures? No. Is there contact information? No.
So we said, kick it to the curb.
So then it's not a valid application. It's not a
Okay.
valid submission.
All right. It must be valid submission.
Are you gonna require them to complete the application? Because I think the problem is you're not getting contact information. So if they don't give you contact information, then it's,
So,
you can't just go and put a sign in somebody's yard. without
Some
permission.
people
Exactly.
don't have it though, and
So-
I know they will nominate like these gorgeous yards that they just see. So I guess then that's up to almost your comfort level. If you want to go to a stranger's, I'll drive past
May,
a stranger's
but
house and walk.
this is how we kind of avoid that, right? And this is where, honestly, if I may, going back to your subsection of your bylaws, I think there needs to be some type of communication that says, and I'm just not knowing your process completely just yet, but I believe it's that somebody, oh, this yard of the month would be a great submission. The way to consider one would be, I like Ms. Eva's yard. I'm going to nominate it. I'm going to put a request in request tracker. She now is a nominee. Or any of you may see a yard or somebody may tell you, hey, go check out this yard. You would see it and be like, oh, here's a nomination, right? So that's how it works now. And I hate, again, to add more work on staff, but again, to make it a little more systematic, I believe that maybe you should consider the request is made and the response to the request and request tracker is, hey, thanks for nominating this yard. Here's the form to complete. And then on that form administratively, you ask the questions. Well, one, does this property qualify? Meaning, is it owner? Do they live in the city? Is it not, whatever the reason would be, right? Whatever the qualification standards are. Do they have any pending code violations? Whatever. And then also in there, maybe a checkbox that says, does the person being nominated accept the nomination? And all those criteria, and I know your goal is to hopefully have one every month, because the whole thing about this, you want to encourage this to happen, right? You want to encourage people you want to increase nominations. You want to have 10 nominations a month. You want it to be actually competitive. That's what your hope is, because then you're really achieving the goal of keeping Lamarck beautiful. To drive that and to make that better, you start small with a form that's trackable and make sure you get all this stuff out of the way. That's my suggestion. That's my, I guess,
Yeah, well,
left field guidance, if you will.
well, the request tracker, it does ask for all those things, but at this point, you can leave them blank. But if there was a little tick in there that, oh, well, you didn't fill this out, we need your phone number, it will not go through, like
And-
every other thing we try to fill out. Well, just like your ARPA survey. No, oh, dang, I gotta go back and fill something out, I missed something.
But like
See?
And-
JP
and
said,
then-
it could be fake.
And I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up, because I was
Right
going to have you
there,
all.
that's the form that they fill out.
Great. And this is exactly the point. So if you make anything on here mandatory, assuming, that we've all done enough of these forms, you can't proceed until you fill out one of these things. It must be a valid phone number. The person must accept the nomination, whatever those items are. That's what I think you bring back to this next meeting to discuss whatever subsection for each one of your areas of interest. And then if I'm not rushing you to get it done on the next one, whatever that is, bring back your suggested format. And in that way, as a group, you can review exactly what is being brought forward as a pre-final or a final draft. Final changes can be made, you adopt it, and then you move forward. And guess what? Bylaws are done. Next item on the agenda. I think you can move that forward a little bit in that sense. So what also, it's easier to have dialogue when you have an example of, here's what I put together already, here's a final draft. Now let's Swiss cheese it and let's see what we, hey, move this over here. Hey, have you thought of adding this and so forth? So I think in credence to all of you, because right now we're talking just about yard of the month, but there's a lot of other things that you guys are involved in that you do. The pickup you do twice a year with the shredding and all the stuff and community pickup and so forth. So a lot of those things are things that you could possibly do, the beautification projects and so on and so forth. So maybe that's a nice suggestion. I'd really like to make sure, just for the sake of time for everybody, as I hear some grumbling stomachs from here, I'm sorry, that we also make sure we adhere to, let's try to make sure we get past subsection 1 today, because that's the real meat of the potatoes. All right, I'm not trying to steer us away from what we're doing, but I really want to make sure that you do that, because I think it's pertinent. I think it's your basis of what you're going to do with subsection 2 and your future items moving forward.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Eva, I don't want to recognize.
I just want to make a quick point, because as I see this, I have filled it out, and it is not user friendly. I have so many neighbors in my neighborhood I would love to nominate. I don't know their name, I don't know their telephone number, I don't know their email address, none of that.
Then maybe they
I
can't
know
be
it just
nominees.
says property address, and why do you think this needs to go? Also, and I know you know from my past on this, it says to also include photos, right? Okay. On my phone, it won't allow me to upload photos.
Oh my God, I just thought of something. I'm sorry. May I?
Yes.
Why don't we just do a little quarter page? That you guys hand out, we put it in the paper, we put it on our website. Somebody can print and say, hey, I would like to nominate you for Yard of the Month. Click on this here QR code and fill out these mandatory
So a
fields.
little advertisement with a QR code on it that links it.
Now, you're getting away from that. I don't know their name, their phone. All you're doing is I was walking my yard, I was walking my dog, and I put this on your door, your
can do that now.
mailbox. Just don't, this isn't anything illegal. But right, if we do that, maybe it addresses what you're saying.
There are tons of yards you guys out there that are stunning, that I don't know, Bouchard doesn't know, Mr. Pettyjohn doesn't know their names or telephone.
So would we all feel comfortable with a
And we
stranger
can't
going up to the door,
send
putting
photos.
something up there?
It doesn't do any good if all we have is property address. Because there's no way to contact them other by, because you guys don't contact anyone by mail, am I correct?
Right,
And sometimes.
but I think the way we get around that is if we had a little notice, and it doesn't have to be, I know the legalities, you can't put stuff in someone's mailbox, and maybe you don't feel comfortable going all the way to their door, and maybe they have a dog, and it has a no trespassing, no soliciting sign. But there's ways around that. I did this as one of my part-time jobs growing up, but handing out flyers, you put a little one of these things, a little one of those cheesy little rubber bands. And you or a door
I was
hanger.
just gonna say, a door
Yeah,
hanger.
a door hanger is great if somebody
You
wants to
better
walk
not.
all the way to their door, right? Some folks, people are a little bit different. Maybe it's a fence. A door hanger is perfect because you can actually hang it on the mailbox if you needed to. So maybe it's creating door hangers, which are perfect for 8.5 by 11, because I've done them plenty of times. It looks just like this. You cut them in half. Cut them in half and says, hey,
We
neighbor.
can have them printed that way.
Yeah, we can put them in our inside the Marque, our next edition. Hey, cut this page out.
Would you
Here's
feel
your door
comfortable
hanger,
having something like
You know,
that
cut this out. If there's a neighbor in your yard you want to nominate for Yard of the Month,
What happens if we get 20
I've done that.
nominations?
See,
that's great.
and-
Isn't
and
that
they
what you
do not
want?
respond.
I mean, you want that headache,
But that's-
right? You want
that's
that,
why
right?
I'm-
You want
that's why
there
I
to
was
be
putting
that,
stickers
because
on it.
at the
Because I
very
have
least,
different places that don't
at the
have
very
it.
least,
Just
you
like
may
that,
nominate a winner,
that
but your
one
social media
picture,
page
oh,
could
it's
say,
stickers on
and we'd like to
the-
also recognize all of this month's nominees.
I
You know,
Yeah.
you're still recognizing them. Hey,
And it's like it's
I
a
may have not
neighbor
have won,
thing.
but
If
I
you
was
like that, go
nominated
talk
for it.
to your neighbor. That's what being a neighbor is.
I just think that that's a consideration. And if you'd like me to do that, we're working on the next edition of Keep Lamar Beautiful. I could ask them, I'm sorry, next edition of our Inside Lamarck, I could ask Miss Mandy to please consider that as an item
Yes.
to include in there, to include a little cutout of the door hanger. Does that,
I think that's a good
When
idea.
does the next
Place
edition
that
go out?
on the doors that
I
have.
don't know, the deadline's
that
coming
have
up
that
though,
Nominated without a name.
really soon.
Or a telephone number, and then someone from this board
I got
just go, hey, you have been nominated for.
Let me know.
If you
Oh, so you can go- I
agree
got it.
with this, call
I can do it right now,
or email.
the door hanger.
And I really don't like the
Can you
idea
do
at
it?
all. A lot of the points that y'all put
Alright,
up are just
I'll
exactly
copy.
what I face going. So I feel that if you're going to nominate somebody, if that is your neighbor, then you go up there and you ask your neighbor. They see you every day. They don't know me. I'm some stranger that pulls up. Do you know how many times I've been told to F off?
I
All right then.
completely, and it's with fairness to you guys that sit up here. It's probably, you don't want to be the nominees, the nominators, more than likely, right? You're the
No, we'd rather
judges,
not.
right?
Mhm.
So going to your point, like, I don't know if you guys heard what we were saying, Mr. Pettyjohn mentioned, what if we get 20 applicants? Well, that's what you want, right? Now, the other thing you could do to recognize them, you could still recognize all of them and say, hey, we'd like to take a moment and nominate and recognize all of this month's nominees for a wonderful job well done. By the way, here's this month's winner.
If we get so many in consistently in a flood, that would be a great.
That
thing
would
to
be
do.
great. We've never had that, but it would be
Yeah.
great. Also with our business shard of the month, the very last one that I called, that was that new trailer park over there by Walmart or, you know, whatever it is, RV Resort.
Yes.
And yeah, they were the ones that told me to F off. They weren't interested.
Wow.
So, I mean, what do you do? So we have not had a yard of the month for business for over a year.
You did the McDonald's one not too long ago. That was really nice.
That wasn't ours. That was, I think, Vivian Garden Club. So we got competition too.
What?
I
Garden
also
Club
just
does it,
saw
Garden Club.
that the chamber has done something like it too.
It's,
Y'all are
it's
not
an
doing well.
independent.
Nobody's
They're-
even tonight.
Viv is really way more strict than us. Yeah.
I think it's time to have a, goodness, I think it's time to have a group workshop. I just think it's just a group with all the board and the committee.
We've got the next 2 or 3 months covered, so.
Okay. All right,
Yeah,
sounds good.
let's see.
Okay, I'm just gonna add quickly for parameters.
Mhm.
At one time, we decided that, well, I think we did this with the Christmas lights, is that people can't be nominated multiple times in a year and win. That maybe, I thought we decided maybe once every 2 years, but if they had been nominated again, we could give them like a continuing excellence instead of
Right.
the sign.
Yeah.
So I will put that in
It's
here,
like
if that's
that.
okay.
It's like that fourth place one. Did I not? No, I didn't. That was a thought in my head that I was gonna actually type out. They
Yeah.
can only win like once in a calendar year.
Yes. Like I said, this is one of our best programs. Everybody loves that. They like it. The neighbors love it. You know,
People get competitive about this stuff. Christmas lights and gardening and goodness gracious.
and I have met so many wonderful, nice people.
Going back to the yard of the month door hanger, we could also include a PDF on the city's website that if somebody had more than one nominee I'd like to do, there's only one in my edition of the paper. They could either go to the edition, the
And print out
the
their
virtual
own.
one and print on the page, or you could have a link on your website that says, hey, neighbors, here's what you could do. And then it tells them what to do.
Sound like you're ready to roll with that. Like,
I still say complete application. Because how many times do people send y'all to dangerous spots? You know, because they don't want to be involved or they don't want to list who they are. So yeah.
that's gonna have to be a big,
Yeah, but I understand if we get a completed application,
Yeah.
it gets kicked to the curb. Otherwise, then I think we're good to go. The application is complete with name and contact information. And also, like, it's a denominator, so we can call them if there's a transposed number or something. We've got like a second line, because I had that with Matrenga.
someone's
mom was.
information, essentially. You want someone's
Well,
information.
I want both people's information.
Prefer.
Yeah, because I need to
prefer,
call that person and say, hey, you were nominated, blah, blah. Are you even interested? Because then you're calling somebody who may have their number, but oh, I don't talk to them. Oh, they just have a really nice yard. Oh, I drove by. I don't know who lives there. You know, it's like, if we're trying to promote community in a neighborhood, get to know your neighbors. Ask their name, find out about them before you nominate and just send some stranger to their door.
Everybody knows everybody during a hurricane. I don't know why
Yeah,
they don't.
exactly. But, you know, but this other time, nope.
Ooh, my head is kicking.
So are we agreeing that you're gonna take sections of the bylaws? We're fine, or
Okay,
Miss Alana, I just sent that and I copied you on it for the
Awesome.
insert.
I think, and this is just my opinion. If we are to each take our subsections, right? We all do have our niches, and so we all do have the things that we are passionate about and so have the most ideas about. That's awesome. But I don't think we should be necessarily restricted into, like, if we do have a small opinion, you know what I mean? It's something someone might not have thought of.
If I
And-
may, similar to what Charter Review is doing and has done periodically, what ends up happening is let's say we were all together on the Charter Review. All right, which section does anybody want to try to tackle? Okay, you pick them. That's how we go. When it's your turn to bring it forward, you bring it forward and saying, okay, this is my presentation, and then everybody says, hey, did you think of this? What about it's still back and forth, but if you would like to follow that similar model to do that, remember, you're only doing this if you do it right the first time. Each time for renewal every couple of years that you do it every even year,
Yeah.
you know, if let's say every even year in July, we're going to renew, or, you know, update our bylaws unless something happens before, then you would say, hey, if Richard is still on here and he has whatever section he has, hey, Richard, if you're still here, do you want to have that section again? Do you want to have another one, whatever you want to do? Or whoever is sitting in each one of these new seats again, you set some type of procedure. And actually, one of the items in your bylaws could be, as I just stated, every July of every even year, we will update or review our bylaws. I mean, whatever this is what we're creating. And I don't know if they're even still around, but I remember being a kid or even a teenager and reading the For Dummies books. And I mean no disrespect what I'm about to say, but I live by those things. I still have some of them now. It is a systematic way of saying, all right, what are we supposed to do? What are we doing? We want any next new board member to pick that up and say, oh, this is what KLBC does. All right, cool. Now I know. I'm going to sit in this seat. All right, now I know what this person is. There's a subcommittee for this, and this. And you have a chair for each one of those subcommittees. Like that sounds like Miss Kathy is the subcommittee chair for Yard of the Month. Okay, well then whoever the new Miss Kathy is, if she wins a lotto and decides to move to the other side of the world, then they'll know, hey, would you, next new person, new Miss Kathy, would you like to fill in this role? If not, another board member fits into that role and you divvy up responsibilities that way. Just a thought. I'm not telling you what to do with your stuff, but we want to create that sense of order.
Well, that's why we're talking about all this. Good Neighbor Award. We did our kind of our criteria when we first started that. Do we need to redo that one again? So they were pretty simple.
We haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, so you want me to work on that one too?
Might as well.
Okay. Good
Shove
neighbor
it in there.
criteria. Okay.
Good neighbor, Yard of the Month, business.
Okay, so I will do those. I will work on those for the parameters.
Let me see. Since I'm assuming we're gonna want to get through this first section of the bylaws, correct? That was the intent. 8C, regarding joining the Parks Board to clean the hidden spot at Highland Bayou Park. Since that has been on here, Public Works has already gone out there and cleaned up that space. They were actually out there today doing some more work. So that's been handled and
Canceling that.
yes, for the moment.
Wait, is this a Saturday event?
No. This
Oh,
is,
okay.
Richard had noticed at the Beautify the Bayou that there was a big dump spot that was hidden away.
Okay,
And that's what this was, but they've already, they took it to Public Works once Mike Bach knew and they took care of it.
If I may, in the effort of what you're continuing to do as far as Keep Lamar Beautiful, either yourself or Parks Board, because I brought this up at their meeting as well. If you have certain sites that are hotspot for dumping, maybe helping us identify which ones those are or would be so that we can address a possible program to put up some signage that says, hey, eyes on you, no illegal dumping, something to that sense, so that we could try again in an effort in the spirit of what you're trying to do, being Keep Lamar Beautiful. That might be another way of doing that. Considerations to erect illegal dumping signs in certain hotspots until they hopefully don't become hotspots, and then we could take that sign away.
Yeah, we gotta get citizens' participation with that.
LMEC already provides the no littering and the no dumping, the camera pictures and all the wording on it for code compliance. Currently, there should be about 15 that have locations that the BDP up that Public Works has, and we still have a few more signs left.
We still have a few.
Then I
just
can
left on
definitely get you a few hot spots. I know where they are.
We gotta have the signs, but we can't put them up, so that's Public Works puts the signs up.
Yeah.
So
If that develops
It's there,
that's
those
a hot spot. But it's good to know we have some in reserves, at least, those signs.
don't worry, we'll come forward and ask when we run out.
I know. Okay, so yes, so 8C is
null and void.
null and void now. That's been taken care of, which is awesome. 8D, like I said, regarding Arbor Day tree giveaway, that was
Handled.
old business, that was handled. Discussion, possible action regarding new program ideas. I don't, if this is one we generally just want to push, since we already have extra. But the blue things that I gave you guys, they're just, because I'm OCD. So there's a lot of stuff in here, but a lot of everything that's in plastic is program ideas I pulled from when we were at the conference, from all the other different things to, fiddle at. I think I've talked to some of you about a couple of little ones. Some of them are big, some of them are tiny. And then there's resources, new ones, data people, new affiliates. Something I'm gonna talk about at the end, but there's some new program ideas in there. That's what this is. I wanted to let you know that's what mainly was in this folder, since that was a thing. But is that something we want to go through tonight, or would?
I think we ought to have, look through it and then just bring on old business.
Okay,
Yeah. you just-
there were some really neat ones. I know Richard and Kathy and Ashley's not here, but she went with also. I know I pulled some amazing things, green initiatives through where they're doing the new downtown area. We've talked about getting involved with the schools more and wanting to do that. Youth advisory committees, recycling bins and clubs at the campuses, snack cart programs, virtual education programs. Do you want one of these?
Yes, please. If you have an extra.
Yeah, I made like 10. I don't know. Wasn't counting. Just made some. I have talked to Amy Miller from the library, and she would really like to get with us and work with us so we can get some of these educational programs like we had wanted to in the past, really pumping it up and running. And there's a lot of resources that came to fruition in the conference that could be really helpful in doing that. And then, I mean, there's lots in here. Wreath decorating. I popped that in there because the cemetery board, when I was on there, one of the members talked about not getting wreaths from Wreaths Across America, and they were not up to snuff last year at all. They fell apart. It was terrible. And then having local kids decorate them in patriotic manner and putting them on the stones as a little thing. Clean Business Award was another one, because I know Business Yard of the Month is tough for us sometimes, so I might want to look at that one, Catherine, and see if that speaks to you. And thought about an internship program with us. I met so many young people, 18, 19-year-old people that were there at that conference, that were already working for cities and in these key, whatever their affiliate was. And so I know they're out there, and I know that these high school students want to do it. If we could reach ours and point them in a really good green, earth-friendly direction, I think that would be really cool. Learning gardens, the library, workshops, litter cleanup kits. That's a kind of a partnership with Lowe's. Green teams, which is, these are like adopt a street, kind of get people to sort of take care of their little areas. And so we break it up a little bit, chunk by chunk. I've talked with Rick about it too a little bit, just get people to take pride in each little, each little spot, and then little ripples, big wave. And that that ties into like adopt a highway, but I know it's tough sometimes to get people to adopt a highway, although Garden Club does a great job. Weeding projects, mural contests. They have a Graffiti Goes Green program, which is really cool. Clean and green neighborhood initiatives, utilizing like Nextdoor. I know you like Nextdoor. Community garage sales, Earth Day, and Raft Railroad bungalows. That's my favorite one, but that's a really big project. But that's just that one has me very excited about it, to be quite honest with you, because we have a huge stretch of railroad and giant ugly silver boxes at each crossing. They'd be sponsored by businesses and potentially wrapped in vinyl by local artists that capture things about Lamarck cougars or the bay, and the birds and things like that. It'd be an art, be a focal point along the thing. They'd also get to advertise, just not big enough to take away from the whole mural that wraps it, but so that you can see who sponsored it and see that business, like Ron Hoover, for instance, I know they already sponsored Bayou Fest in Park, so.
Yeah, that kind of goes to what the city of Kima has done. They painted every single fire hydrant in the city.
Mhm.
The volunteer groups have done that, every single one.
That's a cool one too.
It's nice too.
There's lots of little, but I just wanted to put it all in everything that I learned, all the things that I thought were really neat that could possibly translate here into the Marque. I wanted to put them in here so that everyone could digest it. And so that you had the resources that I had too, if we didn't all meet the same people. 'Cause I know we did.
Yeah, we all did different stuff.
Yep. So, but I collected all my cards and I put all the resources on there. Biotech ladies and things like that who do trainings and.
And you've done a very good job of that.
Yeah,
They,
I'm really liking the in-person workshop ideas. These are nice.
I know we can expand so much more, but I
Mhm.
think it's limitless. It really is.
Mhm. Absolutely. Catherine, can I have a call of these? I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
Does anyone else have anything to contribute to the discussion of new program ideas? While we're
My only thing is I saw where you had something about pollinator pods,
Yes.
and that's, and maybe I'll have to look more into this and see what that's exactly about. Because remember when we talked about doing kind of a cost-effective kit for the monarch butterfly
Yes.
way stations,
Mhm.
but we didn't quite get the Jumbos to call us
That's
back on
kind of
that.
what it is.
Okay, because I think that would be great.
Yep, that's kind of what it is. And putting them in little green spaces too,
Yeah.
like actually just putting them
Yeah.
in
And
there.
then now that I'm crazy about the native Texas bee, we could have a little bee habitat for somebody.
See? We can expand all sorts of stuff. We've learned so much.
Just so that, I'm sorry, to that note on the bees, there is some potential funding out there for bee sanctuaries
Oh, okay, cool.
in the area. So I could try to dig some of that stuff up and share it with you,
There's funding for bee sanctuaries,
like grant funds.
grant funds.
Possibly.
All right.
And there's also. I'm stepping into for 1.5 second on these, the mason bees, which are so important for pollinating. That might be a good idea for a building kit, for kids at the library,
Mhm.
that we can use. Family.
I've got one of those in my backyard. They might be in
And
here,
I've got
honestly.
two in
Yeah.
my
Yeah, I
area,
like that.
They're great.
And I think that'd be a great idea for the kids.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
No, that's a great idea.
Terry,
Are we going to discuss the actual?
we're
Okay.
trying to get there. That's why I asked if
Okay.
anybody had anything else to add to the new program. We can, because we can push it, have everybody time to digest and bring that one back, because that's a lot.
And again, for the sake of time, I mean, everybody's probably warned, there's no pace that we need to follow to get this done. If you want to address it tonight, if you think you need more time, that's on you to make that decision. However, I'm here to provide guidance as needed on that, as I did for Parks Board. That's 1. 2, I do have a couple of ideas to chew on, if you could just indulge me for 1 minute and 30 seconds. Ditchless city effort to try to become completely ditchless. A lot of cities are doing that through new development and also coming back and offering that service to its residents. That is a stormwater benefit as well as a beautification benefit. Adopt a road, which you talked about. We have a tree committee, a request of us about potentially having a tree committee. Or if that's going to be a subsection of Keep It More Beautiful, I'm not sure in what capacity you want to do that.
Got a tree program in there too.
And the reason why I say that is because there's an actual arborist that has moved into the city and he's asked and inquired about that. He lives in either Sawgrass or Delaney Cove, don't quote me. I met him at one of the community meetings along those lines, the ultimate dream in that case. So for example, I don't know if one exists for Keep It More Beautiful, if you would have heard this, but like for parks, there's a Play City USA award or a designation you have. For tree cities, there's a Tree City USA award that he actually mentioned of potentially forming a committee to do so. I think it would help with a lot of the canopy issues and concerns. Also, the possibility if there's a partnership we could have with either Center Point, Texas, New Mexico, with land that they own and operate in the city of potentially having a tree farm. You mentioned these trees that are going on. If enough volunteers and folks are put together, separate from the garden club, but if you had a tree farm, it's the whole give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach him how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
Plus the amount of water retention that comes from the roots of trees.
But if you get that, that might be a possibility that may or may not. And now I'm getting to the realm of maybe where it's a little bit different, but in the spirit of keeping Mark beautiful,
Can we get his information?
I can share that because I wanted to first bring that to you guys to see if that's something you would like to pursue. And he was saying, well, is it a separate committee? Would it be a subcommittee? What do you do? And I wasn't sure how to answer that and what direction we wanted to go. I think we have enough board meetings already, but maybe possibility. A collection of maybe having a big old workshop together with not just on your own to have your own sub workshop, but maybe one where we have garden club, parks, KLMB, and kind of all the boards come together to have something occur. I'm still trying to find out, and I just reached out to legal to see if board members also need to be sworn in. I don't know if you've ever gone through that, but if you do, that's a process that we need to officially take.
We used
We all
to.
swear in.
Sworn in by the city clerk.
Yeah.
I don't think
But
we
is
used
every
to.
current member
Yes.
has every member complied?
Yeah.
Wait, you didn't do it?
Is there anybody who, see, so there you go. So maybe that's just something we need to update. Again,
It's a definite thing, like we are definitely supposed to. Lindsay said she didn't. Lindsay said she didn't. Do the.
I'm sure Kiera probably contacted you or something to tell you to come to her office because it's
No.
really quick.
it literally
Seriously?
takes, I mean, you,
We'll get it
not
taken
even.
care of.
Call her,
Then,
make an
yeah.
appointment with her, and then you just run
You
over.
just run
go
over.
there.
Either that
Signed an
or-
oath. I think
Yeah, we
signed
do.
it.
We sign it.
She
We
did
do.
mine in the parking lot
If-
because of COVID. She
Right.
just came out to my truck.
Yeah.
And even if it's something along the lines of maybe the next meeting, if you got here a little earlier and she stayed a little bit later, you could do it before your next meeting, something like that. These are just housekeeping administrative things, so we're in compliance. We talked about the recycled paint program, the sign program. I would like to provide a very brief update on that. As you all know, we have faced a rollback and we're in a situation where we're cutting things instead of adding things. So unless we find some funding that could help pay for that, it's very likely we may have to table that or go through the route of what you thought about doing previously. I know we talked about purchasing some of equipment that we could use. We even considered doing it through the ARPA funds, but I don't think that was an applicable expense that qualified for it. It technically falls in the street beautification, but it wasn't considered a need, to my first understanding of rounds. We talked about yard of the month, good
Sorry,
neighbor,
what was not considered a need?
meaning like
The signs.
for ARPA funding, like the ARPA survey that hopefully
Oh,
you guys have all
okay.
completed. Which, by the way, if you haven't, I have the QR code on my phone. You could zap it and do it.
Yeah.
If you'd like to do it to get your feedback, we want to get some good community feedback on that. And also if you could please share with your neighbors, friends, and so forth. Yard of the month, good neighbor. There's, I'm talking about funding. If anybody has any grant writing experience on the team that would like to help us identify some grants and also help fulfill some possible grants to put in work, because it is a yeoman's task.
I found some online grant workshops, and I also have a whole list in the back of this folder of grants that are available through KTV and KAV. I'm just saying.
Okay, so perfect. If we could identify some of those and pursue some of those as aggressively, but on another perspective, there's a big bipartisan amount of funding through, it's called IIJA, but essentially bipartisan federal funding that's going to come out. And one of the biggest topics in discussion is safe streets for all. One of the things about safe streets is it's now talking about your canopy, your sidewalks, your signage, your lighting, your streets themselves, pedestrian walkways, bike paths, all together to beautify streets. That's a very big portion of what's in there. We will be submitting an application. We're doing everything we can to maximize how our application is going to look. Having said that, if and when, I'll probably come to you guys for that application for a letter of support from the committee saying, hey, we're supportive of this and so on and so forth. In that nature. So I will come to you guys for that when it's time.
Fine, idea was to make it more safe too.
Yeah.
Right. And
There's some stop signs still that I've seen.
so for safe streets,
are
that would,
faded to the
Absolutely.
point of not
For-
even being able to-
for safe streets that qualified for ARPA, it did.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying for safe
Yeah.
streets, it does, and that's what we want to try to address.
For sure.
But that's one of the items and things. There's a group that we've been meeting with since our last time. Yes, sir.
Bill, on grants, the city process here, is it to apply and if you're accepted, then to approve? Or is it you have to approve to apply?
I will tell you, there's a proper way of answering that question, and then there's a preferred. So right now, there is no exact process on how to do it. Usually it only comes when historically it's come when it's been approved, but I'll tell you the reason why it's important fiscally to do so. If you were to apply for a grant that, for example, required a monetary, commitment or a commitment from anybody that you could no longer fulfill. For example, the mayor has to wear purple suit and sit on the corner for 2 hours. That's one of the things. If we get awarded, you've got to do that. But what if he's allergic to purple? I'm just saying, for the sake of this question, if that was one of the conditions of this grant, then it should have been disclosed before, right? Because then we're in the thing, well, great, we applied and we got awarded, but now we can't meet the commitment.
Right.
Where it's more prudent is fiscally. So for example, right now, I prefer to bring a grant forward before and after. Why? Because I want, one, everybody to know what we're doing before we do it. And two, if there's any commitment tied to that, then I'd like for it to be accounted for. For example, we've received all this funding for some of these wastewater projects and so forth, but it was never earmarked for the matching funds that come with it. So now in time of rollback, when we're trying to proceed with these projects, I now have to somehow find $547,700 something of match funds out of thin air in order to complete the projects on time. Because it wasn't fiscally accounted for, because it wasn't brought beforehand and never fiscally thought of, hey, we should probably do this. Had we done that, then maybe we would have been better prepared for this type of situation. In addition, for future funding, we're really going to be tied and capped to that. So that's my reason for doing before and hopefully after. That and the fact that if there's ever any, you never know where some support could be. There could be somebody, member of the audience or in the world that is listening that could be like, oh, wow, they brought it forward. They got consensus, they got approval of it ahead of time. That's also bears well when you submit your application, because I can say, part of the application, this was heard before our council on such and such date. We got community buy-in, somebody from the public came and spoke, here's a minutes of the meeting. It adds, it makes the application stronger with strong supporting.
I noticed that there was an editorial in the council paper yesterday about they're building, they want to build a $31 million baseball field in League City. They were going to go after some Texas Parks and Wildlife grants for that.
Mhm.
I mean, surely we'll be ahead of them before.
Certainly we would. And my only caution to that is, and I don't know about that specific application, if there's a plan in place or whatnot, but our situation right now would be that if that grant, for example, wanted to apply for, is whatever the match
I don't
is.
know what the details of it
Perfect
are.
example. I've been dealing this week, the deadline's tomorrow, for a grant application that is a 60-40 match for Omega Bay. Well, the maximum is 400,000, which means the match would have to be 160. Well, graciously, and it's not official, I haven't gotten a letter yet, but we did receive a commitment from Omega Bay to pay a portion of that. However, where's the rest going to come from? Because it limits your application because of it. So as worthy as we may be, if we don't meet all the parameters, then we're limited to what we can do. That's something aggressive. No, and it's a good point, because, and Miss Eva doesn't know this, but she's one of the folks, you attended the CIP meeting, Richard, you attended as well. The folks that attend our CIP meeting, the next step is for us to announce our next round of CIP meeting. Because now that we're getting the budget rolling, the next step, and we did the first passing of scheduled fees, the next thing is to bring our CIP team back in and push that forward, along with, now we've launched ARPA, we've got the feedback. We're moving things kind of lockstep with one each other. So along those lines, the next question will be, how are we going to come up with these matching funds to go apply for these grants? That's the next step we need to take after that meeting. So that's kind of the conjunction of how that would work. Oh, no, they're totally on board, but that's what I'm saying. It's where's the rest going to come from? And I'm just saying in totality of everything. And that's an example. I wasn't saying no, I'm just showing that as an example because I'm doing it with deadlines in less than 24 hours. Sorry, we met with a team called Replenish. They are a team that that works with, I don't know if they're probably in here. We've met with them several times. They're not, you mentioned waste management. That's why I was turning my neck to see the recycle numbers, but Replenish is a program that actually helps us retain some dollars to be used for a group like yours to create some dollar funding coming in by recycling. So they help you set up a recycling program that you can actually retain funds from. Currently with our recycle program, there really isn't much of retainment. And there's also no commercial recycling. I don't think I saw it there. that currently exists. It's one of the contracts I haven't delved too much into yet. But that's a possibility. So I would like to, I vetted it first, made sure that it was legitimate. There is a process to follow to lead the next steps, but it's something that if you would like to consider, I can fill you in and then go from there. There's a cohort. And part of the cohort, you actually get some funding to get your program started if you qualify. We talked about Tree City, Play City. Talked about hopefully a total workshop administratively, keeping up with swear-ins. I love your idea of wrapping the traffic boxes in the bee sanctuaries. I've got a bunch of other ideas we could get into all day long. But for the sake of time, I wanted you to consider some of those things because the digital city, the adopt a road, I think would be steps in the right direction of what you're trying to do. Because if you can maybe not adopt a road, but a block captain that can kind of be in charge of that, it could also help some of our code staff. We're very short staffed in our code department. And I think having that relationship, because they've already subdivided the city by a person. So similar to how we're doing with our community policing, every community policing has a community policing officer. I know for a fact that every code officer is designated to an area, but they
Anything
also
to
need
help
help.
you guys.
So maybe a consideration of that, if that would be helpful. All right, sorry, thank you.
If you have other ideas, would you please forward them on? I would love to read them and be able to share them if you're not able to make it to the next one.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
That would be great.
We'll do.
As we move on, yes, moving on. So that brings us to discussion about the boards and commissions bylaws. You guys all have them in front of you, correct?
Mhm.
Now, herein the question lies, my fellow commissioners, is that it is 8:30 at night. We have the bylaws in front of us. I know I have some basic notes, just little tiny ones on what is here, but I know that we also talked about kind of conquering and dividing and kind of having a little, broke apart. Everybody figures their things and then we come back and we meet and we share and we figure it out. Is that something that we would prefer to do at either the next meeting, or is that something we could workshop? I know no one likes workshops.
For the sake of what Parks Board did, because
Time, I know, I'm just like,
it did become like the discussion during Parks. They did it during their retreat portion, not during the regular meeting portion, to the point where it took so long that some folks even, ordered food. It's you want to be pointing what you're doing. You're established something that probably should have established when this thing started, and you want to move it forward correctly. So you want to give it a lot of thought and a lot of individual thought will allow you a chance to accumulate your ideas more. So don't feel rushed. There's no timetable in this. Obviously, we want to enact it as soon as you can, but have that in order. We do have some minor edits that we wanted to share, some suggestions from what Parks Board did on subsection A to make it easier to hopefully alleviate some of your time. Do you guys have those hand notes that Kira shared with you?
is this subsection A that I'm looking at, like this?
You do have the hand.
This
Are those your notes on there?
Yes,
Okay, all right. I thought you had the
but
notes.
is
on it.
this is all subsection A then?
Yes, this would be the
Okay.
meat and potatoes.
I
of
just wanted to
kind
make
of
sure
all
that
of it.
I was clear.
Mhm.
on
You
that.
would create subsection B essentially
Correct, okay,
by what your individual board's task would be.
awesome,
But the
awesome.
meat and potatoes would essentially be your, sorry, your
But
own
yes, I
stuff.
scribbled notes in here, but we have notes from Parks Board.
Right, and if I could quickly go over those notes with you, then I'll save you some time and you can table
They
them.
might match my notes because I talked to Parks Board member about the bylaw.
Okay,
About the ex officio member being non-voting.
okay, so,
I'm just trying to
I
see if
shuffled
mine
my
matches.
papers here. All right, quickly, Article 2 of Board A, the number of members. I see 5. Is somebody missing or is
There's
this,
someone missing. We have 6.
you have 6? So obviously you would need to edit that, right? So line,
I-
as we go
And
in
I've got a
order.
question about that, because each, we've always had 5. And then the 6th is the city council, this is not,
Mayor,
well, but each person would nominate one person,
Mhm.
each city council person, so it gives you 5.
And
So
the
why
mayor
would we
has-
have six?
The mayor has 2 slots. Mayor has two.
So
Has that always been the case? Because we've always had 5.
There's always 2, we just don't have enough people.
So technically, right now, what you're saying is there's a vacancy?
No,
No.
she's just not here.
Okay, so she's 6, and then you, technically, your other member, you technically have 7 members
No, we
is,
don't. No,
well, who's your city council?
Casey.
Casey.
So she's your 7th member. She's technically a member, but she's not considered a,
She's the ex officio.
she's
active
exactly.
officio. Does that count as a member? She doesn't-
Yes, and
she's
if you read,
non-voting.
if you read item 2, it says the board shall consist of 7 members, one of whom shall serve as a member of the city council,
Okay,
who shall be an ex-official member. So technically, the way it reads now under your copy is accurate. For Parks Board, for example, they had to change theirs to 9
okay.
because with the ex-official, it ended
So
up
we
being
need
8
to
instead of
change ours to 7.
Right, yours should read 7.
Okay.
Right? And then also an edit they made on line 2 is ex officio, it should be non-voting
Non-voting.
member. So that's the second edit.
Yep.
Again, under Article 2's first page here under subsection C, the second line, also that number should match. So it should be 7 members shall be appointed in odd numbered years.
Gotcha. Oh, that's why it was highlighted.
Right, that should match, okay? That's all the changes on 1. This is saving you hours of time, by the way. Article 6, so on page, it's listed as page 3, but I don't know unless I'm out of order.
The page numbers are off.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's a
V1.
correction, right? That's a correction. Article 6, under
V1.
officers. Is there any offices that are missing?
We have treasurer.
Which
Okay.
basically just reads
Yeah.
the
that's
city.
So would that fall under here or fall under subcommittee 2 that, because your board may have a treasurer, other boards may not? So technically, that's the next question you would ask yourself there. So whether it's addressed here,
Do we need a treasurer? Could
No.
the vice chair do that?
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
don't need
it's
it.
not
Okay.
like it's
there you go.
a separate office.
We're going straight through it then. Article 7, duties of officers, number 3. They made an edit where it says, last line that's on the page, instead of 15 days, 30 days from the resignation date.
That's what I had put in. I circled that.
You
myself.
circled that yourself. So if you want to, that's already what they've already measured. Page 4,
Okay, hold on.
Sorry.
I want to talk about that. Because isn't it, the way it was council, your council person, and they vote on it? Because I kind of got railroaded a few months back, if anybody remembers, and I don't really like how this reads.
well, this wasn't the one, which article are you under?
Removal of officers.
We're not on
We're
there yet.
not there
Oh,
yet.
okay,
We're going, that's one we're going to next.
okay,
Yeah, we're going on Article 7.
okay.
We're passing Article 7. If you
So-
read
so
from
that's the
15 to 30.
230, okay.
Right.
that was on that 15.
Now we're going to Article 8, which is the one that's in question.
Do you have the section of the charter and ordinances that apply to your commission? Because that would help you a lot when that bothers you, first bother you, if you read through that, you'll see why those. are in there.
So under Article 8, removal of officers, there is the section that's on there. Officers may be removed from their positions as an officer by the vote of 2/3 of board members at any meeting of the board. The board shall replace the removed officer by electing a new officer within. Another change that was done is, says 15 days, it's supposed to be 30. So under the same section, so this is under Article 8, removal of officers. We're also looking at how to revamp and edit this because of the way that it's written. What it doesn't state on here is it's regardless of how many members you have on your committee, on your board. So you have 6 members. In this case, 2/3, you would need 4 votes. But it's not 2/3 of quorum, whoever shows up that evening. It's the way it's written, and the way it's understood is 2/3 of the entire group. And it's also, it would be for the removal of office, not from the board.
Okay,
That can only happen the way you came on the board, which was that. Now you are, and there's language to that, and I made notes, I'm sorry, I was making notes preparing as to how to reword that, or consider rewording it, if you will. If you allow me a moment. A recommendation for removal of an officer may be made to council for consideration by the vote of 2/3 of the board members of any meeting of the board. So now it's 2 separate items. And it should be added, the removal of officers and removal from the board. as two totally separate items, and all that can be done of the recommendations being made would be a recommendation to remove that person from said board, right? It's not that you are making the recommendation to be considered by who appointed them, which was not any of you, it would have been the council. And so if that language makes sense, I could share that with you, because I was just quickly working with Kieran to jot notes to make sure we're on the same
Did
page.
Parks Board, not, this is the discussion on the side after Parks Board had actually done theirs. Didn't they say something about this section, removal of officers and people, that there should maybe be some language in there about, however it legally needs to be put, I suppose, with just cause, to knock out any
Right.
sort of like buddy favoritism, like banging up on, that kind of
So,
thing.
in addition to that, yes, that did come up, and the language for that I don't have yet. However, the idea is collectively as boards is for us to come up with some language that is unilateral and uniform.
Uh-huh.
So, to avoid that from occurring.
Yes.
So just as when you take office, for example, right now, in my contract and the council members, and then probably all of you when you took oath, there's a subsection, as Kathleen was saying in the ordinance, that says, hey, if you do this, or this, you are now deemed, as you have, I think it's called becoming, I think it's the language that's used, whatever that is. So we're adding that language straight from the ordinances into these bylaws, essentially and mimicking that. And that's what would be for consideration at that time. But to address that, that was something of clarity that I wanted to address from the last meeting we had. So we can have this uniformity of bylaws, was to clear that up and make sure that we're really being pointed at how we're doing it. It's two totally separate things.
Does the park board have the same number of commissioners? And
No, that's another good point. There, as yours is 7, theirs is 9. They have 8 plus their ex official, I believe, is Mr. Compton. So technically theirs is 9, while yours is 7. So they have 8 plus 1, you have 6 plus 1. And again, this is your time to make recommendations if you need to change that number, or if you want to consider that. This is where you would do that at your bylaw review. I hope that clears that up. The only other section that I have, actually, that's the last change that we had, but everything else was pretty, the meat and potatoes of this is this, and you guys, well, actually, I have to take it the other way around. This is kind of like the bland stuff, right? This is the simple stuff that is uniformity to just all of our boards and commissions. Then you'll add in your specific areas.
Did quorum get changed?
I didn't write this.
No, I know, I'm just asking. It
2/3?
says, under quorum, it says, I'm just curious, it says a majority of the full board shall constitute a quorum, but didn't it used to be, what, 3 or 4, or was that
which-
based on
which-
our board?
Some say majority, some say they have, 3 must be present, have form, some say majority.
Which
Different in different words.
which section is that?
I did get an email from.
It is
I just didn't go all the way down.
Article 9.
I didn't write.
Here it says a majority.
Majority of the full board shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. So in your case, the way that it's written now, if you have 6 members, majority would be 3 or more.
That's what it is.
But
We need
I
3.
take that back because you're 6, but it's 7, so it's 4 more.
4 or more. Okay.
So if you choose to make an addition, a edit to that, that's what you would bring at your next meeting when you do this final review of that. And
I always thought that was what a quorum was anyway, but I know
well, no,
others.
you would think of it that way, but yes, it basically what it means is that, for example, on our council, form is, I think, 3 now. Right, so
Okay.
I've been on so many forms of business in my city, but yeah, so it's 3, meaning majority, 3 out of 5.
Okay. No,
Because it's fine.
I was just curious. I didn't know if we had a set number before, because like here it's
She's
usually,
on the ordinance up now.
okay. I was just curious.
So if you will, if that's a homework we could do between now and then to share with all of you guys, I'm assuming you're gonna table this to the next meeting to take subsection 1. And then, or if you do it as a retreat or workshop, whatever you want to do, and then bring back subsection 2 and then you go from there. So if that's something that you want to do, I just wanted to have that discussion for a point of clarity, because what I just went over with you now took about 2.5 hours on Parks Board. So if you agree with those changes and have no others, you just save yourself 2.5 hours of time. Because that's where they're at right now. They're at the next phase of I would just want to bring you guys up to speed to work being uniform.
Those were a lot of ones that I had I had earmarked just, well, again, because I talked to Parks Board.
And that's great. It's great that you guys are talking. That's what we want. That goes back to the point I made earlier. of, Hey, garden club, if we have a tree committee, hey, KLBC. Works.
It's been 3. That's what I thought. See?
So it's
So-
4 now?
No,
Technically,
it-
right now, the way the
way
bylaws
it's
are written now, that you've embedded, they contradict that.
yes, this contradicts that.
Okay. So which one are we going with, 3 or 4?
That's
We're
what
not
you're,
just-
that's what you're gonna
We're
decide.
not deciding right this second.
Oh, okay,
That's what,
But I was
that's what you
just
decide when
curious.
you do this review.
okay.
So, and this is on the ordinance for this board.
Keep the market information.
So should you change that? Should you suggest a change in your bylaws? The next step would be for us to bring that forward as an amendment to the ordinance. If you
If
choose to
you
go by
choose
the
to change it
ordinance,
From 3 to majority, then it would have to be changed by, voted on by council
Okay,
right.
to change the ordinance. But if you choose not to, then you don't have to do that.
So it's your call, whichever choice you want.
okay.
And that's what you're reviewing now as your time of review. Did I answer everybody's questions?
One more. If we don't change the 3 and we leave ours as it is, does the one we get as KLMB of this, because I'm assuming our bylaws, the second subsection will be attached to this. Does then that, where'd I go? The majority part in there for us change?
This is what would happen. We would add something, a sentence at the end of that to
Okay.
read unless said differently in subsection 2.
Gotcha. Okay,
Then in subsection 2, you would change that.
cool.
That way we keep uniformity, but you amend it later on.
That's what I
I'm
was
not-
wondering.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to contradict you or anything. I'm
No.
just saying that those, the way that those were written for 3 is because the number of commissioners or board members that are on certain commissions and boards.
No.
And so that, and because there are some that have a hard time filling and getting them here, so as to make it so absolutely 9 times out of 10, we can get 3 members.
For sure.
And then they
Yeah.
can have their meeting and they can vote on the things they need to vote on.
And that's at the pleasure of the group.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this situation, is you guys can deem that as you see fit.
I think it always helps move things forward. And especially little things, and then we can table stuff that's bigger stuff like we've done in the past. I'm just saying, so. But
That's for y'all to
Yeah.
discuss and vote on
Um,
and make motions and move forward.
so would we like to workshop this? Do we think that's the better idea is to workshop this?
Well, no, we pretty much got it kind of covered.
Well, no, I mean our subsections. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
You can go subsections and then final review of this document, if any other changes suggested, to give you, you've only chewed on it for a little bit, so that's why I'm saying.
But we talk a lot, so
Well, you be very careful there that you don't go violate any of the.
are the workshops open?
Oh, when you work on the workshop,
Yeah.
yes, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Have a workshop to
Yes, that's
discuss the subsection B.
I just want to clarify, we don't really talk.
No,
business.
not out, no, not outside. Just talk, I meant talk in our meetings a lot. So
Sorry, I
try
added to
pay
that.
attention, Ron. You're right. Okay, so, a workshop would be, we're gonna workshop it before the next meeting. Is that, are you okay? Are you okay? Oh, no, you just,
Just a catch, it just won't go away.
Is there a difference between a workshop and a special meeting?
Not necessarily. I mean, you can call it a workshop, a retreat. For example, I think
do we
they
wanna
Parks
call
called
a
it,
retreat?
hold on, the reason why you say retreat,
If you
let
just-
me see what they called it.
Usually you have a workshop before your meeting.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, then you just agree to when you want to do it. And just send her the times and she'll add it and put it on the agenda for you, and you'll have your workshop agenda, and you'll have your regular meeting agenda.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
like Parks Board, the way they did it is they did similar to that, but they called it a retreat because they knew it was gonna take longer.
Mhm.
So they did a retreat followed by the regular agenda right after.
Okay,
And they ordered, I think, food or I don't know what they did.
so workshop before the next meeting. When will our next meeting be?
August 10th.
August 10th? And our normal meeting starts at 6. Wanna
Before.
Well, you don't have to announce your time for the second one. You could just say to occur immediately following. You close one meeting and open the next. You just announce it as what's a rolling meeting. You could take a recess or whatever you case you want to do.
So we will take all of our subsections, our niches, and chew on those and come back, workshop it, and roll into meetings.
For the sake of action, are you separating what is what now, or do you guys already know?
Take them, come back.
Okay,
Okay.
there you go.
So it is gonna be a workshop.
Well, if we're gonna workshop the subsections, then we need to know who's gonna do which subsection in the meantime. Otherwise, we do a workshop the next month, but that would put it off longer. It just depends.
Well, you said there's no deadline.
Right.
So if you want to have a workshop before the next meeting, next month's meeting, then we need to know if it's gonna be retreat. I don't know what the standards are for that. Does that mean the public's not invited or they're invited?
They are.
Always.
Always
Okay.
invited.
There's just a different.
Because we never used retreat. It's always been a
Well, no,
workshop.
and the reason why I said that is
Council does.
workshops normally limited in time. It normally has a start and an end time, while a retreat is more you can roll into it. It really is a preference. If a workshop you designate, the workshop is gonna be, many cities will do is they'll do a workshop 4 to 6 and their meeting will start at 6. Different from we're doing a retreat. This is our agenda. When we're done with it, we're gonna have a quick meeting afterwards and we're gonna take action, because you don't take action at retreats or workshops.
Right.
You communicate.
Yeah.
Your action to be taken would occur. For example, if you had bylaw amendments that were done during your retreat and you suggest what they are, have a conversation on it, and you want to have on your agenda, approve amended bylaws changes on your agenda, then you do it at a workshop or a retreat, and then you take over right afterwards at the meeting, if you chose to do that, if you planned it that way.
Okay, workshop before the next meeting. I think we kind of all have our committees at least, and we can work off of that in the meantime. Workshop, see where we stand. And if it's no rush, then at least we'll get some stuff done and we can get to it. Yes?
Yes.
All right, we're all good? Fine, good, finally? All right,
I move we adjourn.
second? All right, all in favor? I adjourn this meeting of KLMB at 8:51 PM.
It's not over at 1:30 or 12:30, whatever the last one was.
Well, I don't know that.
Whatever
you
the
beat
next
George back
council
there.
meeting was.
Want to be very.
Hey, quick question.
You know I hated those long meetings.
Because we want to try to get the regular.
Oh, hold on, wait,
Y'all vote-
Alana,
you vote to adjourn the meeting?
we need to,
I did.
Usually the
seconded?
council right after.
I was making sure, okay.
Terry, Lindsay. I.
It's always.
We did.
Because if not, whatever action you take or suggestions you make, you actually heard the full council, but others.
I'm
Yep, that's a good question.
Thank
to
you for
Alana.
your input and your suggestions, Eva, on some of the stuff.